What's up, everybody? So, yeah, I know I'm 19 minutes late. Why am I 19 minutes late? Because BRG is not the smartest person on the face of the earth, and he got three vaccines yesterday: flu, COVID, and Tdap, also known as whooping cough. So, don't do that. Don't be stupid like I am. So, why are we here? Because come hell or high water, we save us. What the hell does this mean? What does this slogan mean? Why did I invent a whole new slogan? Because as you know, there have been a lot of natural disasters and other capitalist caused fuckery in the southern part of the United States and Appalachia. I did not know Appalachia gets hurricanes. Capitalism has it so fucked that Appalachia gets hurricanes now. So we're here trying to, well, one, serve a political purpose, prove that we really don't need the government. The government doesn't give a fuck about us. The government hates us. So, um, where is the hope coming from? Like, why am I a communist? Why are any of the people that I'm having on today communists? Because it's our utmost belief that we are ultimately capable of saving ourselves, and the United States government cannot even take care of its own people, which segues into the fact that why are we so obsessed with exporting our weird and fucked up way of life and governance process to the rest of the world? I mean, I don't think people in Bolivia or South Africa want McDonald's and fucking chemical plants blowing up every day. They have enough problems. So, three places that you can help out comrades on the ground. Let's see. Uh, so, you have the Western North Carolina Mutual Aid Fund, which is right here. That is a project of the Western North Carolina branches of DSA. Representatives from a couple chapters we're going to have one later. And you also have the Florida DSA Hurricane Relief Fund. Oh, yeah, who's this bald white dude next to me? That is Cliff Connolly, one of our comrades from Orlando DSA. He's just sitting there nodding. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, but lovely. Yeah, quite. Oh, yes. All right. So, what are we looking at? So, this is the Western North Carolina Mutual Aid Fund, Asheville DSA, North Carolina Triangle DSA, and our chapters across North Carolina are collaborating to raise money for people affected by Hurricane Helene in Western North Carolina. This is still an ongoing process. This is still an ongoing struggle. The ugliest face of capitalism is often revealed in the wake of a major disaster, and that's exactly what we're seeing in Western North Carolina. The near total destruction of the housing and infrastructure falls hardest on those with the fewest individual resources: the poor, the marginalized, and the working class. Our solidarity with all the oppressed people of the world calls on us to help the victims of Hurricane Helene rebuild their lives and homes. Money raised will go towards purchase of critically needed supplies. We also hope to fund cleanup and rebuilding efforts in the long term, but we need your support to do so. Funds may also be used for mutual aid and disaster relief efforts by North Carolina Triangle DSA, Asheville DSA, or to assist partner organizations in related efforts in areas affected by Helene, Milton, and other disasters. Why do all of these hurricanes have old black people named? Milton is literally my grandpa's name and my uncle's name. And people are like, I ain't getting taken out by nothing called Milton. I thought, okay. I would not underestimate old black people, but here we go. Funds may be used for mutual aid and disaster relief efforts by all the chapters involved in North Carolina. We also have Florida DSA Hurricane Relief Fund. Cliff, you can talk about this if you want.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I wasn't involved in putting together this fund, but I'm glad that I think at least one representative came from every single Florida DSA chapter, came together to help put this together along with NPC members. Thankfully, for the most part, we did not get hit as badly as Appalachia did. But there's still a lot of work to do cleaning up here in Florida. Tampa certainly got it a lot worse than we did here in Orlando. So we definitely encourage people to donate to the fund, help out, any way we can. And appreciate you plugging it.
No problem. No problem. You got to do something in this life. You can't just sit here and play video games and issue my asinine political opinions. And last but not least, we have mutual aid disaster relief. I actually, if you go to my Twitch, I actually have a fundraiser for them, which goes in the bits through PayPal. But if you want to donate directly, then you can do so here. So Mutual Aid Disaster Relief, it is a revolutionary minded nonprofit that deals with disaster relief. And so what is that on? There are a lot of ways to support the movement of grassroots liberatory disaster relief, and there are so many communities experiencing acute crisis between climate disasters and COVID 19. Additionally, disasters often take years to recover from, and communities and local groups organizing recovery experience ongoing financial and material need to disasters that mainstream media continue consider old news. So yeah, I imagine a lot of you guys are like, oh, why are you guys still talking about this? This was 3 weeks ago, because it wasn't just 3 weeks ago. This is something that continues to happen. Like a lot of people don't understand like what exactly it takes to recover fully from a hurricane. Like New Orleans hasn't even recovered from Katrina fully. Like if you go there, there's still a shitload of vacant lots. If I recall correctly, they're still finding bodies down there. So this was almost 20 years ago. Oh yeah. So we're here for the long haul. So Cliff, how you doing? You said that you guys didn't get hit all that hard by what happened. So why was that? Like people were like all of my comrades from Florida, like, oh, this is fucking scary as fuck. I don't know if I'm going to be alive in the morning. And then like everybody's like, oh well, yeah, we're good.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so most of us that have been in Florida for a while are very used to hurricanes. The last time we had a run like this of back to back was when I was a kid, like 7 or 8. Was the last time that we had like at that point 3 or 4 back to back. Hurricane season's not over yet, so I don't know what's going to happen for the rest of this year. But yeah, we definitely dodged a bullet with both Helene and with Milton. The people who were the most scared, and with good reason, were people in Tampa with Milton. I believe Tampa had not suffered a direct hit from a hurricane in about 100 years. So all of the projections were, if Tampa had been hit by Milton at Category 5, it would have been an absolute disaster, well beyond what we've seen now. So I'm glad my comrades that I know all evacuated, and the family that I've gotten, everybody just got out of there. Thankfully, the storm did decrease in intensity. The Yucatan Peninsula got hit at Category 5 by Milton. I think it went down to a 3 by the time it hit Tampa, and then it was already down to like a 2 or a 1 by the time it hit Orlando. We get hit by 2s and 1s all the time. So that was a pretty standard hurricane experience for us. A couple of days off of work and school, and just people have hurricane parties, and then we go out after and clean up all the logs and branches that have come down, check on everybody. But we were all preparing for it to be a lot worse than it was. We got very lucky this time. There's no guarantee that would be the case in the future. But yeah, very happy to say everyone I know is okay. And there's still cleanup efforts to do. I know Tampa still has a lot of flooding, which isn't just a concern of like, I got to get in a kayak to go to the grocery store. It's also a concern of like, there can be tuberculosis in the water. So there's a lot to do there. But yeah, definitely not as bad as it could have been. We'll see if our luck continues. But like we've talked about, Appalachia definitely was not as lucky. I don't think any of us saw that. Appalachian town should not be underwater from a hurricane. Like that's crazy. That's never happened as far as I know. So yeah.
Yeah, this has been a year of new and very, very bizarre things. But these new and very, very bizarre things are not like these aren't random events. Like, why is Appalachia getting hurricanes? Uh, because capitalism, imperialism. Like this country has wasted so much. It has shot so much carbon into the atmosphere that it's coming back to bite us in the ass. And even natural disasters, they impact the global south. Like you said, Yucatan got hit at Category 5. They impact the global south. Like everybody knows that. Like nobody talks about the impact of these hurricanes and disasters on Cuba. on Dominica, which, if I recall correctly, was flattened several years ago on the islands in the Caribbean Sea, the Atlantic, that are pretty much entirely occupied by black people. Because America doesn't give a fuck. Like, you think of Jamaica, you think of Bob Marley, who actually was a revolutionary, but people don't think about the actual people that live there, because the people of the global south are not human beings to many of our chauvinists who live up here in the north, global north. Um, did you survive the 1900 Galveston earthquake? Not earthquake, hurricane.
Did I survive a hurricane in 1900?
Yeah,
I wasn't around for that one.
really. Your mustache tells us otherwise.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
You have blown my secret for the second time, sir.
Stop blowing my cover, man.
Yeah, I imagine your patients in the ambulance have a good laugh at your expense.
Yeah, they like it. They like it.
Yeah. Given Tampa's on Florida's west coast, direct hits are unusual, as it's rare for a hurricane to form in the Gulf like that. I'm sure climate change will make this more common. Well, I guess that opens us up to talk about climate refugees and why you should not move to St. Louis. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Uh, I think St. Louis should only take the New Orleanians. Like, we don't need a bunch of Florida men
That's
coming up
fair.
here. I
That's
mean, we're fucking nutty enough as it is. We don't need Florida in the mix. So you have a very well known governor,
Yes. Speaking of Florida,
Ron DeSantis. So was he any use? Was he any good?
no, I definitely wouldn't say he was of any use, but he definitely made use of the storm. I haven't really seen that talked about, and I think it's fairly significant. So obviously, those of us on the left and just sane people in general are commenting, these are the effects of climate change. These storms are going to increase in intensity and increase in frequency, and that's why we're seeing what we are. Then you have sort of the funhouse mirror image of us, which is right wing people saying Kamala Harris is using a weather machine to destroy red states with hurricanes, and Trump has somewhat.
Is that a rabbit behind you?
Yeah, that's the bunny.
I thought it was a cat. I thought it was a cat, but I didn't. I was like, oh, cats don't fucking hop. I'm sorry.
You're good. Yeah, I share my office with the bunny. But yeah, so you have the left talking about climate change. You have the far right talking about weather machines. Trump not not explicitly saying the same thing, but platforming some of that rhetoric. And so DeSantis was getting questions from the media, mostly after the storm. Before the storm, it was, what's the plan, et cetera. But after the storm, DeSantis was fielding questions from the media like, hey, left is saying this, right is saying this. What's your take? And he sort of positioned himself both against people who believe in climate change and against Trump. And the right wing that believes in these weather machine conspiracies. His line that he kept saying was, there's nothing new under the sun. He was able to kind of cherry pick facts to say, this is not the worst hurricane that we've ever had. The worst hurricane Florida's ever had remains one that we had in the 1920s, which is true. But that fact alone does not mean that, storms are not increasing in intensity. So there's nothing new under the sun, and climate change isn't real, but also there's nothing new under the sun. There's no weather machines. He also made some news by collaborating with President Joe Biden to get FEMA resources. The Trump campaign was platforming rhetoric that FEMA was not able to help out in Florida and that it had run out of resources. DeSantis very explicitly said, like, nope, we are getting resources from the federal government. President Biden has been helpful, et cetera. So I think he won over a lot of moderates with that. But then he's able to slip in the Florida State Guard. Are you familiar with the Florida State Guard at all?
Is that like you guys' National Guard?
So we have the Florida National Guard, like every other state in the union, but we also have the Florida State Guard, which answers exclusively to the governor's office and was created by DeSantis. They cannot be called up by the president the same way that the National Guard can.
So he has basically his own little SS down there.
Exactly. Yes. So he was able to tout the State Guard's response to the hurricane and say like, oh, they were very unfair to me when I made the state guard, but look at you now begging for help, and the state guard is here to do disaster response, leaving out the fact that like 90% of what the state guard does is fucking attacking immigrants at the Texas border and Haitian immigrants trying to come into Florida through seaways.
So why is he? So he sent this little stormtrooper outfit, these goons. He sent these people to Florida. I mean, not Florida, Texas, to help beat up on Mexicans.
Yes,
How does
absolutely.
how does that help secure the state of Florida?
That's a great question. Yeah, February 2024 was when the Florida State Guard deployed to the southern border of Texas. Right now, I think it's 5 members, and they're going to up that to a platoon of 30. March of this year was when the State Guard was deployed to keep Haitian immigrants out from coming into Florida as well. We've talked a lot about Cop City in Atlanta and in other towns. We also have like a Florida State Guard Cop City that's being built in Flagler County, just north of Daytona Beach, probably like an hour from here in Orlando. So yeah, everything that we're seeing in other states is very much present here, but I would say accelerated and handled more competently by DeSantis. Him positioning himself both against Trump and against the Democratic Party really, I think, is going to set him up to be the new guy for the Republicans. If Trump flops in this election, we'll see what happens. Even if he does,
I personally think he's going to win.
Like, it's possible.
Yeah, I think it's more than possible. Like he's literally mugging Kamala on the anti-war field. Like he literally released a statement yesterday. Hold on, let me try to find it.
Yeah,
and he said, "Let me see." God, I post too much. Here we are. Arab voters are very upset that Comrade Kamala Harris, I didn't know she was a DSA member, the worst vice president in the history of the United States and the low IQ individual, oh, that's totally not racist, is campaigning with dumb as a rock war hawk Liz Cheney, who, like her father, the man that pushed Bush to ridiculously go to war in the Middle East. You know, the funny thing about this whole situation is that when we were growing up, the Democrats were supposed to be like the party of peace, right? Mm-hmm. Like, raised in a Black household, like I was taught that with the Democrat in charge, you weren't going to be at war. You were going to be all right. You were going to be able to find a good job. You're going to be able to go to college. And if a Republican got in power, then you were going to suffer. Like that was the conditioning, the training that I received growing up. And now it's like it's been like a reversal. Like you've literally got Kamala Harris talking about how badly she wants to destroy the Middle East. And you've got Trump posing as the anti-war candidate. So Trump goes on to say, if Kamala gets 4 more years, the Middle East will spend the next 4 decades going up in flames, and your kids will be going off to war, maybe even a 3rd world war, something that will never happen with President Donald Trump in charge. For our country's sake and for your kids, vote Trump for peace. So this sounds like something that fucking Howard Dean or Dennis Kucinich would say in 2004.
Yeah. And I think he means it as much as they did.
Yeah. Well, I think Dennis was sincere. I'm still tripping off this state guard shit. Like, what type of sick individual would join something like this?
Well, let's talk about what type of sick individual would create something like this. And this is why I want to make the case that I really think DeSantis is a more competent Trump, even if Trump does win office in a few days here. He's a very old man. I don't know how much juice he's got for 4 whole years. And, certainly
I have all the juice. What are you talking about?
So,
what are you talking about? I'm going to live longer than you. You take drugs. You take drugs, and you've probably got AIDS, and you suck. Don't ever say that I'm a very old man again.
Yeah, I'm straight edge, man. I haven't taken drugs in a long time, so I'm good.
Man, me too. Hey, me too. You need to be Next, you need to become a Maoist.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. If DeSantis takes over, I might. But yeah, man, I mean, he's a former naval intelligence officer. He was a lawyer at Guantanamo Bay. We've got verified quotes from detainees at Guantanamo Bay saying that he,
He
explicitly
participated
was
in,
involved in their torture.
yeah.
I think there's one guy. Let me find his name.
I mean, I would consider being in the same room as Ron DeSantis torture, but
Yeah,
yeah, he was involved in some pretty. Like, have you done research into the torture methods that they use at Guantanamo? Like, it's medieval shit.
it's fucked.
Um, I think most deaths subjected himself to being force fed,
Mm.
uh, the same way that people against Guantanamo did. Hold on, I think he changed his name. It's Joachim Day now, but most death Guantanamo.
Yeah, I mean, the way back in the day, Christopher Hitchens had himself waterboarded to like see how long he could last, and it was like 3 seconds, and he thought it
Uh,
had been like 5 minutes or something.
Yeah, it warps your sense. That's what torture does. It warps your sense of time and what's real and what's not real. That's why they do it. And then they, of course, after they finish with fucking you over, after they finish fucking you up, then they ask you all your questions. So when Yasin Bey, most deaf, was force fed Guantanamo Bay style. So this is the shit that Ron DeSantis took part in. Um,
Yep.
so let's see what happened. I collected Bay from his hotel at 10 a.m. the next day. His mood was upbeat, his focus firmly on what was about to happen. Well, that's a real soldier. He's excited at the prospect of being force fed. The stories he had read of Shakar Amir, whose detainment came before the birth of his child, seemed to strike the strongest chord. He texted his own wife and sent his family love as we arrived at our destination. There was no rehearsal. After all, no acting would be required. He swapped his black leather jacket, jeans, and designer shoes for an orange jumpsuit. In an instant, he was no longer most deaf, a rapper and Hollywood star, but a powerless prisoner. Morrissey. Wait, is this like Morrissey Morrissey? Like the
Probably.
no, David Morrissey.
Oh, okay. I was like, that's kind of wild.
No, that's some random journalist. So we shackled his wrists and legs. Then we chained him together tighter and tighter to be sure he couldn't get loose. Why do I have this sinking feeling that this journalist actually enjoyed this shit? He squirmed and spluttered. A second doctor held Bay's face in place as he began to yell out. Morrissey adjusted his grip and locked his forearm around Bay's brow. The fight continued and grew in intensity. Bay freed one arm and writhed so hard the tubes fell out. Okay, so they basically when they force feed you, they slide a lubricated tube down your throat, and yeah, the shit that they're force feeding you with probably isn't the most tasty, anyways. But yeah, not a good time. But
Yeah.
Ron DeSantis took part of that shit. No, Ron DeSantis didn't just take part of that shit. Ron DeSantis probably gets off to the thought of that shit.
Well,
Like,
I've got a direct quote from a guy that he tortured right here, Mansour Adefi. I am 100% pronouncing that wrong. He's Yemeni. He was a teenager when he was arrested, taken to Guantanamo. He said he was force fed. He said there was a colonel and DeSantis. They were looking at each other and were just smiling, is these claims. At one point, he and DeSantis bent over him to encourage him to stop his hunger strike and start eating, at which point Aziz threw up on him.
he threw up on Ron DeSantis.
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, he probably got he probably got the shit beat out of him for that one. But
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, so that's DeSantis's background. Obviously, just a depraved human being. But if you want to take the country, further right, there's the stupid way to do that, which I think is a little bit of what we saw at January 6th. And then there's the really intelligent way to do that, which I think is what we're seeing with the establishment of the Florida State Guard. I think stuff like that will become more common throughout the United States. I think, even in Democratic strongholds, the cop cities that we're seeing are really just the Democratic Party's version of that. These repression mechanisms are going to intensify. And I really think DeSantis is going to be a more competent actor than Trump in the same kind of policymaking. So I have no idea what's going to happen, but he definitely positioned himself well with his response to this hurricane. And of course, the Democratic Party is showing no opposition whatsoever to that.
can we keep kink out of my fucking chat? Nasty motherfuckers. Hey, look, here's our next guest, JJ from DSA Philly, my Maoist buddy, my Maoist compañero de Puerto Rico. Um, So, what is the situation like still like on the ground? Like, are socialists, of course, standing in our barricades and doing what we're supposed to be doing?
I can't really speak to what the situation is in other chapters. I know Tampa probably still has people out of town, just kind of now starting to return from evacuation. Even in Orlando, where we didn't get hit that bad, we've had a couple people just now getting back. I can say in Orlando, DSA, we lost a lot of momentum from the storm.
Why?
People needed kind of a couple weeks to recuperate, check on family, and so on. There wasn't any immediate like aid efforts that needed to be done in Orlando. So I think we're just now kind of starting to see things getting organized to actually just take trips to Tampa and places that do need more help. But yeah, I would say it was a blow to our capacity just with people leaving town, having family to take care of, etc. But yeah, I think we're starting to kind of pull back together. Our main thing right now is we're getting ready to plan our chapter convention to kind of
Ooh,
set ourselves up for the next year.
okay.
So yeah, that's kind of where we're
Yeah.
at.
SDL had ours last month.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they elected me corresponding secretary.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the EC, and I get to send emails. But yeah, it's a pretty good deal.
Wasn't that is that like the equivalent of Stalin's position at the beginning of his
Uh,
career?
I guess maybe I should grow a mustache like you. Of course, I of course I have no intention of massacring my comrades like Stalin did.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Put the
no matter
mustache.
how, eh, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to rock the goatee. I'm going to rock the
There you go.
goatee until I die. There's no sense being like somebody else. So,
There you go.
what has been the like? What do you think has been the response of the like Democrats to this situation? Like, have they taken advantage of this well enough, or have they entirely dropped the ball, like it seems that they do with everything else?
Um, to be honest with you, I would characterize it as like they weren't holding the ball in the first place. Florida has a long, long history of just an absolutely incompetent or uninterested Democratic Party. To me, I think that the root of the problem is that they have the same donor base as the Republican Party, specifically in Florida. I'm looking at a list of the top 20 donors in Florida right now. Charles Schwab, APAC, of course, Reyes Holdings, Renaissance Technologies. A lot of these top 20 contributors are giving tons of money to the Florida State Democratic Party, the Kamala Harris campaign, also to the Make America Great Again PAC and Ron DeSantis. The
I guess they
Seminole,
figure. I guess they figure, regardless of who wins, we ain't losing.
yeah,
Let's donate.
exactly,
Yeah, let's donate money. Let's donate petty cash for everybody. Like
exactly.
rich people's petty cash is like $15 million. So yeah,
And
maybe I should
it's
run for office and get some shit and get $15 million donated to me.
it is minuscule what the Florida Democratic Party is bringing in compared to the Florida Republican Party. The Republicans are able to out fundraise them 7-1 in this election cycle. But again, it's just smaller donations from the same fucking people.
Mm,
So I really do think that there's an element of just their silence is bought. But it's also just, historically, they've not performed well here. They've never had an interest in opposition. What we saw on January 6th was directly inspired by the Brooks Brothers riot that we had here in Florida that helped swing the election for Bush. Um, there was no response to that. There's been no response to that. That is completely memory hold. I don't hear anyone in Florida ever talking about the fact that George Bush was the president of the United States because a fucking riot of rich people overturned the election in Florida, and then he
maybe
lost
we
the
should
popular vote but got the electoral college votes from Florida when he shouldn't have. That's not even talked about, you know?
maybe we should do a black bloc riot
Maybe.
for Kamala. Yeah, for Kamala. Yeah,
Yeah, well, we
Brooks.
might get the Florida State Guard sicked on us. You never know.
All 15 of them.
I have to say, it was really funny when they were going through basic training because there was news stories coming out of just like how fucking washed out they were. It was like guys that got
Meal Team
Guys that like
Six.
couldn't get through the army boot camp did the Florida State Guard one and were like hurting themselves, and it was
Meal Team Six.
yeah, yeah,
Weekend wannabes.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, another big factor in Florida is that there's a rightward drift of Latin voters. I think
it's
we're
not just it's
seeing
not just it's not just Cubans, is it? Like
no,
people,
no, no, no.
like people always talk about, oh yeah, those fucking gusados in Miami. But the thing is, like a lot of the OG gusados are dying off. These people are like 80 and 90 years old.
Yeah, I would say it's really almost the opposite. It feels like the younger generation of Cuban Americans in Florida are drifting more to the left, whereas Latin voters overall in Florida of all nationalities are drifting more to the right. I think we're seeing sort of a similar process that we saw with like Irish and Italian people in the early 20th century, where they were able to kind of slowly integrate into whiteness by becoming police officers and kind of taking these like guard dog positions for capital. We're seeing a similar thing, I think, happen with Latin voters here in Florida and to a large extent in other parts of the country as well. And now we're at the point where the Republican Party has 1 million more registered voters in the state of Florida than the Democrats. They're out fundraising them 7-1. The National Democratic Party has completely given up on Florida. It is not a swing state anymore.
So you basically got the Republican version of California down there.
Yes. Yeah, it's looking that way. Yeah. I don't think it's fully consolidated yet, but it will be soon, especially because DeSantis is just good at his job. He's an evil person, but he is a competent evil person. And the results speak for themselves. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you brought up the rightward shift of Latina people. Because like people like every time we hear talk about minorities, it's always black and brown, black and brown, black and brown. Like first of all, brown isn't a race. Like I'm fucking brown, but I'm not Latino because I'm English speaking. But Latino is not a race. It just means like somebody that speaks Spanish, somebody that comes from a Spanish speaking family. So if my family was from the Dominican Republic or Cuba or Puerto Rico, then I would be Latino, but I'm not. So this I think is what happens when you flatten identities and try to apply American racial categories to entirely different contexts. Um, and you also mentioned Latinos or Italians. By the way, Latinidad is an anti-indigenous eraser. Okay, um, but black people haven't been like they've tried to do that with us. I think like they've tried to co-opt us like that, especially Trump. But at the same time, the I guess the original casts in this country are white and black. So a Latino person, a lighter skinned Latino person, could marry a white woman in Mississippi in 1930 without being lynched. I, on the other hand, could not. So when we talk about like who gets to be co-opted into whiteness, like black people do not have that opportunity really. Now we could definitely be sellouts. We could definitely be traitors to our people and to the working class. But this is why Huey and Lenin and everybody said that black people were the vanguard in the United States because we could not be brought into the fold, so to speak, in mass. So that's why you have a bunch of Latino Republicans in the Florida State House that are doing all this fucked up shit. And of course, there are a lot of black people that are voting for Trump, especially men. Why? Because the Democrats are running a really, really ridiculously racist campaign. Like Trump is probably the only Republican that I would say feels somewhat comfortable amongst black people. Like that's why he's performed better amongst black people. Now, I'm not saying that he loves us. I'm not saying that he would wanted his son marrying one of us or anything like that. But he I guess it's because he's from the television industry and from he he's used to being around black people in the
yeah,
capacity of that.
queer people too, very similar.
Yeah, like of course he doesn't of course he says ignorant shit, but I think black people can like sense who's being real and who's being fake. Like we all know Trump is a racist. But at the end of the day, if you're about making your money, then Trump is fucking with you. Like he's a hustler. A lot of us like look up to that. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that we could all be accommodated and sworn into whiteness because at the end of the day, we ain't white. White was literally a category that was developed in opposition to us. So that's why I think the dynamic is so different. Like our dynamic, like you mentioned, the Latinos being the Italians and Irish. I think at the local level, though, there's a lot of contradiction between Black and Latino politicians for limited resources. So I think that, like, at least politically, like three of the nation's largest cities, the top three largest cities in this country, are governed in large part by Black people. So, and you also have like the construction industry and a variety of other fields that are dominated by Latino people. And you go to London, you go to LA, like Compton, Watts are pretty much entirely Latino now. So maybe Black people are the Irish and Mexicans and Latinos are the Italians. I don't know. But yeah,
It's
just
interesting.
a
In Chicago, the neighborhoods on South Side that used to be like Irish and Italian neighborhoods are Latin neighborhoods now. Like
mm,
literally, they have taken the physical space and are starting to kind of go through that same sort of piecemeal integration process. It's
yeah,
very interesting.
yeah. We weren't allowed to live in those neighborhoods, but Latinos were. We
Right.
had like we've basically lived in the same neighborhoods in Chicago. Well, we've moved, especially like within the Black community. Of course, there's class struggle. Like, of course, like a rich Black person, an Obama would not be living in fucking uh, Bronzeville or um, one of those or the fucking projects. But like, there's still like even going back to the 50s, like you had Latinos in Texas who were in the Klan. But like us, of course not. Like you literally had dudes named Sanchez and Gomez and Gonzalez marching alongside dudes named Smith and Thomas and Jones to keep us out of the fucking neighborhoods. You had during World War II, when the US Army was segregated, Mexicans, Latinos served with the whites. We had our own units. So it's interesting how the process of racial formation is in the United States.
Yeah. My great grandmother came here from Iraq, fell in love with a dude in New York City, went back home with him to Alabama, and the Klan had no problem with her being Iraqi, but she had to hide the fact that she was Jewish. So that's why my family isn't Jewish anymore, and
Hmm.
that feels like an alien situation now, like the KKK showing up at your door, not caring that you're from the Middle East, as long as you're, a Christian or whatever. But yeah, it was a very different sort of system back
Have
then.
you read Have you read Vegas Tenold's Everything You Love Will Burn?
I have not. No.
You should. Like I recommend that to everybody. Like it's basically an expose. Like this guy, he's a Norwegian journalist. He goes around and he follows the Klan. And if you remember Matthew Heimbach, I don't know what he's up to now,
Mm.
but this was like when he was in his prime, like when he was actually a viable far right wing political figure. And like it was just like these guys are basically a bunch of shit posters, Nazi shit posters that this guy was following around. Like for example, Heimbach wore a shirt that said "Orthodox or Death," and he was getting ready to go to a Klan meeting, and the Klan liaison was like, "Matt, you can't wear that." He's like, "Why not?" Because these are good Protestant Christians, and they if they see your Orthodoxy or Death T-shirt, they're going to probably tie you to the cross that they burned. And Matt was like, "Well, then I guess I'll be the first white guy lynched at a Klan rally." Yeah, it's a lot of hilarious discussions and scenes like that. I recommend it to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll definitely have to check that out.
He was at the Rage Against the War Machine rally a few years ago. Matt Heimbach now calls himself a patriotic socialist, so that's mopheads people. Well, hopefully he
Nice.
remains. Hopefully he remains known for getting his ass beat. I mean, I don't think he's ever been. I don't think he's ever been able to live down the night of the three wives. So yeah, he literally got chased out of his fucking trailer park. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I heard a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah, bunch of weirdos. He
Have you?
also
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead, Cliff.
I
You're
was
the
going to
guest here.
ask, have you heard about the insurance companies that are all pulling out of Florida?
Oh, really? I wonder why.
Yeah. So I don't remember what the percentage of companies that have pulled out is, but it's like literally hundreds of insurance companies are leaving Florida. Um, I think it's now 13% of homeowners in Florida are without homeowners insurance, not looking for homeowners insurance.
So basically, if a hurricane comes and sweeps you into Biscayne Bay, then you are fucked.
Yes. Yeah. I think Farmers is the last big one that pulled out. Tons of smaller insurance companies. Um, but yeah, the rates are crazy here. It's like $1,000 or something higher than the national average is what we're seeing down here. That's driving rents up, obviously, because landlords want their tenants to pay their mortgage and their insurance, and then make a profit on top of that. It's becoming unlivable here.
Yeah,
Um,
imagine it is. So where are you going to refugee to?
Chicago.
Chicago. Yeah, you do have a very Polish vibe. I guess you'd make it very well there.
I've lived there before. I would make, I think, 3 times what I'm making as an EMT right now up there. My rent would be the same. So it's
Ooh.
just kind of a no-brainer. But we'll see. I want to stick it out here as much as I can. But worst
I
comes to
see.
worst.
I would never live in Florida in the first place. Y'all got rednecks down there. You got alligators. You got snakes, poisonous snakes. You got fucking giant ass anacondas in the Everglades. Some idiot brought up here.
Yep. I've been attacked by an alligator before. I have that honor.
Does every Floridian have the odd? Has every Floridian been attacked by an alligator?
I don't know. Maybe probably just the dumb ones.
The dumb ones. Well, I
Yeah.
would consider anybody that lives in Florida a dumb person. But
Fair. Fair.
are you from Florida? Or did you just move there?
I'm from Atlanta, but I've lived in Florida for a good portion of my life. I
I
lived
can
here for
tell. I
like
can
8
tell you're
years.
from Atlanta. You said Atlanta the right way.
Yeah,
See, you
I
can
mean,
tell.
I just lived there again last year. So,
Yeah. I would have you spill some DSAT, but I don't want to get kicked out of the party. I've heard some trifling things.
I will say it's been a really good experience because I've moved around so much in my adult life. I've been in 5 different DSA chapters. So
Ooh.
Tampa, Orlando, Atlanta, Chicago, and New York City in the Central Brooklyn branch up there. So I've been able to see like a really wide range of different kind of organizing practices, leadership structures, et cetera, and DSA, and been able to kind of see what works and what doesn't work so well. And that's been a really great experience. Moving every fucking year and a half sucks, but at least that's a consolation prize.
That's expensive.
Yeah,
All right. It was a pleasure to have you on, Cliff. Let's do this again sometime.
absolutely, man. Thanks for
All
having me.
right. All right. Don't crash your ambulance.
I'll try.
Yeah, don't crash your ambulance. All right. So next we've got JJ. What's up?
Oh, wow. Hello. How's everybody doing? I'm really jealous of the
I just
hat.
dropped. You really jealous of my hat?
Well, yeah, I had to find the one baseball cap I could find, so now everybody knows I'm a Cowboys fan all over again.
Why are you a Cowboys fan? Are you from Texas?
No, I am not. My father's a Cowboys fan, and I had to
Is your
inherit.
father is your father from Texas?
No, my father is not from Texas
So why does he like the fucking Cowboys?
because I had young parents, and my father was like a teenager when they were winning Super Bowls. I don't want to hear
Oh.
it.
Well, see, we're a family. I'm from a family of loyal Rams fans. I grew up with the Rams.
Oh, that's
So
not powerful.
yeah, that's the only football team we've ever had, I think. Well, no, we had the St. Louis Cardinals that moved to Arizona and became the Arizona Cardinals, but they kept the name.
Yeah, it's fun stuff,
Eh,
passionate St. Louis fan base. So let's see how we get this them off.
d- A Cowboys fan in Philadelphia, yes. He's also a Maoist in Philadelphia. Like JJ Jordan is an anomaly. He he yeah, I don't know what to say about Jordan. He insisted he come on. Well, actually, I insisted he come on. Why not? But
Oh,
yes, we have a Cowboys fan in Philadelphia. We have a Maoist in Philadelphia. We've got and Afro Boricua in Puerto Rico and fucking Philadelphia. We've got all types of people in Philadelphia, all of which are JJ. So
Again,
yeah, I just want to say you guys' chapters are really, really big inspiration to me. Philly is like a dirtier version of St. Louis. So yeah, like I monitor really closely what you guys are doing, and I really like that you guys are working with a variety of different organizations and coalition work, like an actual coalition work, not just hey, let's just protest together one day and then never talk to each other again. But like you all are actually building relationships with these groups. And it's funny, like the people that are always talking about unite the left, unite the left, unite the left are always the most sectarian people. They want to unite the left under uh bourgeois reformism. But let's not talk shit on our comrades.
no,
Um Good.
I appreciate that. I think that you know, being the co-chair of the Red Rapids working group in Philadelphia and getting to, a little bit more space to organize with these different groups and do a lot of, to a certain extent, an element of my own outreach is very, very helpful. I think that what direct action in general and like community centered organizational focuses is vital because you have to understand that like in our org, we do have a predominantly white org. I don't know if you've noticed that before, but so because of that,
Of course I
people
noticed it. Of course I noticed it. I'm an STL DSA man. There's been many, many times I'm the only black person in the room.
and it's one
In
of
a
those
city
things
that's half black.
where it's like, people have definitely appreciated a lot of the work that Red Rapids in Philadelphia does, and through that outreach, and honestly, just through talking and showing up and listening to what people have to say, a lot of people forget that, the first line in community organizing is community. And you need to establish that. People are so focused on how can I absorb this group of people? How can I do this? How can I talk at this group of people? And they forget that a lot of the way that people get started is, one singular conversation about exactly what's going on in their neighborhood, in their community. And I think that one of the most unique things about the Philadelphia chapter, in all honesty, is that people are a lot more willing to talk and have a healthy disagreement and engage and disengage with each other in a healthy extent that you don't really see in a lot of other chapters. It's one of the things that I appreciate. If I'm going to be honest, like even the people that I disagree with in my chapter, I appreciate because the way that they go about it is very, very different from how I've seen, in other chapters throughout the country. I think that even when we disagree on some level, we at least respect each other, which is a little bit different than the ongoing situations that I've seen. So that's been nice. And I mean, I have the benefit of we have a very diverse city. We have the second largest Puerto Rican population in the country. Philly is a predominantly black city as well. And on top of that, we have a very, very prominent African community in Philadelphia. So it's like in the
So
scope of it all,
you fit
we
into
get
all three groups.
to like that's the thing is, we're able to do a lot of organizing with groups that we know the organization doesn't historically do organizing to. And we've been able to build a really, really nice program together and a nice coalition of organizations that, you wouldn't think on first glance DSA would be involved with, but here we are.
I was trying to try out a little ticker at the bottom. I think it's slowing down the thingy, but whatever. Fuck it. I'm just gonna keep dropping them in the chat. But yeah, that's like the thing with St. Louis is like it's not as diverse as Philly, not as diverse as even Chicago. Like everybody here is either black, white. We have a pretty substantial Latino community, and there's actually a lot of Latino people in like St. Charles County for whatever reason. But like our Latino community is centered around Cherokee, which is a street. Yes, we're in the Midwest. We name a lot of our streets after indigenous tribes. And you also have like we have the largest number of Bosnians anywhere outside of Bosnia. Like there's 35,000 Bosnian descendants here. The upstate SRA represents Twitter. What do you say about the claim that the DSA is too close in its ties to Democrats? I hear this often from Orthodox Marxists. Still funny because most of the Marxists in DSA seem to be Orthodox Marxists. But whatever. What do you think about that, Jordan?
I mean, the whole thing, the whole circumstance of being too tied to the Democratic Party, I think depends on your organizational strategy. Because in my experience, a lot of the Orthodox Marxists that I've spoken to, and this is obviously, small sample size, but I don't really think that they've necessarily endorsed the strategy of aligning with the Democratic Party. I mean, granted, I'm not going to sit here and say that I know every Marxist in DSA, but I do know a good amount at this point.
I know
And
every Marxist in DSA.
all right, excuse me. First,
I
first,
know every,
first he's got the cool hat flexing on me. Now he's got to flex the fact he has friends. All right.
I know everybody. I'm a very, very popular man. It's very annoying to be popular.
Oh,
You have
excuse
people
me.
you have people hitting you up. I would gladly give you my popularity. Because I want to see you suffer. Let people hit you up with stupid questions at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, whoa, I didn't say that doesn't happen, but I mean, yeah. So like, I don't know. I think that a lot of these people, I think that outside observers think that DSA is a lot more aligned in strategy than we actually are, in my opinion. People think that like the electoral wing of the organization in general represents what we all want to do, and that's just not true. And I think that honestly, even the side of the organization that believes in that vehicle or theory of change would absolutely not say that we are united on that front. So
Mhm.
I think that a lot of that comes from people that don't necessarily engage with the organization. And I can see that
Yeah,
from the outside observer why people might think that way. But in my opinion, particularly Orthodox Marxists in general within DSA have far more critiques of the electoral strategy than unavowed support and what have you.
yeah, because a lot of these people, that's why I like outside observers. Like, you're never really gonna get what's going on if you're not part of an organization. Like, why don't I talk about what's going on inside PSL? Because I don't know what's going on inside PSL because I'm not a member of PSL. But I think DSA, a lot of our processes are a lot of our processes are public facing. Like at NYC convention, you've got people that are literally live tweeting the fucking votes. So in a way, I guess we kind of bring the outside observers and armchair quarterbacks on ourselves because we talk about um, I guess, like I say, we talk about stuff that we should be talking about, but I guess we should be talking about it because as Maoists, we believe that struggle should be public. Like this stuff shouldn't be hidden from the rank and file. And let's be real, DSA isn't talking about or doing anything that'll bring the feds down on us. So I don't know. I personally say let 1,000 flowers bloom, but some people disagree. And yes, you are too. Everybody in chat is too chronically online. Everybody in chat needs to go outside after you donate to the fundraisers. Go outside and cut your grass. Go exercise. Go run around at the park. Go walk your dog or something. The dog is going to jump out of the cage one day and rip your throat out because you keep it fastened up all day while you watch streamers. Go walk your dog.
No, I think that because that goes into, in my opinion, one of the biggest divides in the organization right now, and that goes into the how we approach anti-Zionism. And I think that this is something that within the Philadelphia chapter I'm most proud of, and that's when we successfully passed our anti-Zionist resolution in June in the chapter. And it was overwhelming. It was an 88-12 vote. We split into two parts. It was 88-12, and it was 80-20. So basically, both votes passed 80-20. It was an overwhelming, rebuke of Zionism within the chapter. And it was really interesting because people were under this impression that you couldn't pass an overwhelming majority anti-Zionist resolution that includes the expulsion clauses, and we were able to pass both of them overwhelmingly with very, very soft opposition. So I think that in general, something I am really proud on, the progress that Philadelphia has made with our anti-Zionist organizing. I mean, with Red Rabbits, we have done virtually basically every single pro-Palestine action in Philadelphia, Red Rabbits has supported it in some way, either through marshaling, through security, through communications, through boosting. We've been very, very, very integrated in a lot of the Palestine solidarity work in the city, and it's something I'm very, very proud of that we've been able to do. And on top of that, the chapter broadly supports anti-Zionism. It's not something that was really in Philadelphia a divisive issue. It was more so, the classic bad faith arguments of, oh, this is a purge resolution, this is a purge document, and
Yeah, not a single person has been purged.
well, because that's the thing. You have to understand that the people that make that argument is people who overvalue this idea that we need to deprogram Zionists. And the idea is if they have not been deprogrammed after a year of an ongoing genocide, I don't feel like you're going to have much luck, buddy. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Like,
look at how they treat Jewish people that are anti-Zionist. Like they literally say the most fucked up Nazi style shit about Jewish people. And most of these Zionists aren't even Jewish in the first place. They're evangelical Christians think that think that Israel should bring about Armageddon. Like it's really really funny how these Christian dominionist weirdos think. Um, like they think that Israel and Palestine, this is literally the Battle of Armageddon, and they, of course, are backing Israel because they see them as the good guys of the Battle of Armageddon. So you've literally got people that are willing to fry the whole fucking world for their shitty little Bible story. Hey, there's two of you.
yeah, I don't really know why that happened. I'm sorry. Oh, there we go.
That's what happens when you live in Philly with the rats gnawing on your fiber optic cables.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, you all had the audacity to suggest I move out there.
Yes, it would be hilarious. And
Yeah,
that's
it'd be,
true. It would be
yeah,
so funny.
yeah.
But no,
We're gonna make new seasons of If It's Always Sunny or something.
I mean, we can workshop it. I didn't say I was creative. I mean, um, I think that I think it is encouraging that the Philadelphia project has been generally unified around anti-Zionism. I think that it's been great. I mean, when um, we spoke out against Governor Shapiro for for vice president, and it was great because everybody united around how much they disliked Josh Shapiro.
Mm.
And I thought that it was hilarious because we went from like having all of these like very political disagreements that were friendly in nature and whatnot and wasn't too heated. But as soon as Josh Shapiro came up, everybody just flipped the switch and it was like 110 degrees, like absolutely not. And it's because, it was one of the things that was most frustrating to me was people were implying that, oh, the left doesn't want Josh Shapiro as the candidate because the left is anti-Semitic, and it's like, no, he
But
compared
the
encampment
left doesn't want Josh
supporters
Shapiro as a
to the
candidate because he's hard.
KKK. He compared 18 and 19-year-old college students to the KKK.
Now there are 18-year-old college students that do want to be in the KKK, but they're usually called patriotic socialists. They're not called anti-Zionists.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's different. The patriotic socialists need to call their dad. That's a whole other story. Basically, I'm very proud of the program that we've built. It's built a lot of work has gone into it, to form a very, in my opinion, very anti-Zionist chapter. And of course, there's always work to be done. There could always be more. There's always work that we have to engage in. But as a whole, I've been really, really, really proud of the direction that we've been making. And it's been so rewarding being part of that work and getting to know so many amazing comrades in SJP, in Philadelphia, we have, Pen Against the Occupation, working with a lot of, grassroots Palestinian orgs that, other chapters don't get to work on because they don't want to acknowledge that Palestinians are human beings. So
Yeah,
it's a nice
it's like
thing
that.
to
Yeah, I think St. Louis is actually getting a lot more with the program. Like mainly because like the shit that we've been seeing out of Gaza, the West Bank, out of Lebanon, this stuff is fucking horrible. And the most the most easy agitational propaganda that I found that I've been able to make is like, look, if you back Kamala, if you back all of these no good, useless as Zionist politicians, this is what you're supporting. Like, you cannot cry crocodile tears over a little kid in Lebanon that's had his hand severed or who has had his eyes blown out by an explosive pager. Remember those? You cannot say that you're in solidarity with these people and then go on like the our buddies who should not be named. Um, they actually released a voter's guide for the New York City Convention. Remember that literally it was literally right there in bold print for an anti-Zionist NYC DSA. No, like why would you offer up your supposed enemies propaganda like that? Like now, every time this horrible shit comes from over there, now you got to have the ultras who you despise posting that. Like, stow the fucking crocodile tears. This is what you did when you actually had the opportunity to take a hard line against this. Why? Because you want to keep AOC around for whatever reason. Personally, I think we would be a lot better off if we cut it loose, but it's because these people don't understand where power comes from.
No, and
AOC
that's
doesn't even.
basically the explanation. Is that, in my opinion, what it comes down to is a flawed power analysis or lack thereof. I think that, you know, when you look at all of the hangups that they have with actual like restraints and, actual engagement to, you know, enforcement mechanisms. And I think that that's important. And I think that when you're releasing a freaking voting primer on tactical voting for a Democratic nominee that's condoning, aiding, and abetting genocide and has done it for a year, and then you say we need to be tactical with our vote, it's just a tactical guide, we're just supporting down ballot candidates, guys. I don't know what you're talking about. When you have to go through all this trouble to embarrass yourself and twist yourself in pretzels to rationalize the fact that at the end of the day, this doesn't do material harm to you. And that's the frustration, is that they reduce a lot of marginalized communities into hypothetical arguments instead of just actually talking to them and understanding that, hey, this bothers us, you know? And, it's really frustrating to me that, you know, we need to endorse Kamala tactically. There's nothing you live in New York, buddy, all right? You live in New York. You're going to be blue probably by like 75-25, all right? There's nothing tactical about what you do. It's that you lack principles and you don't want to miss out on that nice, cushy staffer position, all right? So don't play that with me. Just be
Yeah,
honest. That's the thing that gets me, is that, at least say it with your chest. Not that there's anything tactical about what you're doing, all right? Because at the end of the day, you just want to try to go to bed at night knowing that the candidate that you support supports Israeli funding. All right. I don't want to hear anything about that. It's, oh, well, it's the Iron Dome. It's tactical. No, it's not. It's literally not. You have
this is what
one
I've.
national legislator. Get out. Like,
This is yeah. I want to start calling gentrified neighborhoods micro ethno states. I like that. I'm going to write that down. Thank you, Delhi. But yeah, you're entirely right, Jordan. Like these people simply don't know what they're doing. They think they know ball, but they don't. That's why every prediction that they've made about any election over the past few years has been dead wrong. Like they told us that Bernie was going to win. What happened? Bernie capitulated and got fucked. They told us that Hillary was going to beat Trump. What happened? Trump beat Hillary. Now they're saying the same. Like, why would you hitch your wagon to somebody like that? Why would you do that? Like, what political? Like, I don't even think Kamala Harris knows that DSA exists. I don't think she cares. She probably just thinks it's like a pressure group of college students or something. This lady doesn't even know that DSA exists. So, but
no, bro, it's all
you're,
about crisis organizing. It's all about crisis organizing and mass absorption networks and,
I don't know.
not talking
Sounds
to
like
people like a normal
sounds
person.
yeah, like it. Yeah, like it makes me sick how they talk to people. Like, why would you? Oh, I haven't asked. Like, you talk about people as fucking objects, as tools to be used instead of as actual human beings that are worthy of being in our organization. Like when I talk to people, my goal is to recruit people, but it's very, very difficult to recruit Arab people. It's very, very difficult to recruit Black people, many of which are Muslim, especially in cities like Philadelphia, which, if I recall correctly, has the largest number of Black Muslims anywhere in the country. Like, you guys would not have been able to work in the Black community if you were not serious about Zionism and opposing it,
Yeah,
because yeah, it's not going
that's
to
the
work.
bottom line. Is that, in my opinion, something that needs to be reckoned with is that the average American leftist, in my opinion, is okay with outsourcing the effects of capitalism and the military-industrial complex to to the global South. And I think that
Mhm.
that's something that, as communists in the imperial core, we have to reckon with and we have to deal with, because people are so happy when the consequences don't affect them. They're okay with they're okay with Gaza being under siege. They're okay with Beirut, being under siege, because it doesn't affect me. It's not my backyard. It's not my family. It's not my house. It's not my kids having to pick up their brothers and sisters, because that's over there. We're more civilized over here. We do things better over here. That would never happen here. And it's like, that's the problem. It's the sheer callousness and selfishness in American society, for me, if I'm going to be honest. And it definitely pervades different elements and different sects of the left. And I think that, we need to go do an about face on why these mass elements of peak selfish individualism have pervaded leftist spaces. It's because at the end of the day, you know, people, even in the people in the organization and people in general in the movement, they've never actually gone through the process of deconstructing their own whiteness. It's always been, I'm a good ally. I'm helping you. I'm helping so and so. I'm helping marginalized communities. So I'm not benefiting from whiteness. And it's like,
Yeah,
no, you are. You quite literally are. And it's not me saying that you're not a good ally. It's not me saying you're not a good comrade. But there's going to be times in your praxis where it's like, no, you have a certain level of understanding or lack thereof, and your lived experience perpetuates a lot of positions that you take. And it's not me saying that they can't help. It's that they also need to help deconstruct that internalized bias that's in their political analysis.
what type of help do we even need from these people, anyways? Like, they can't even talk to their grandpa, their racist as grandpa, over Thanksgiving. They can't even, like, they most of these people are afraid of guns. Most of these people have no fucking money. Like, why the fuck can they help us? What type of help do they have to give besides being annoying as shit?
Um,
Like John Brown helped us because he was ready to put his fucking life on the line. But like, what the fuck? What help do we need from a bunch of broke ass colonizers?
and
What can you do for me? Like, what can you do for me? What do you have to offer my people? You can't even help yourself. How can you help me?
that's the
Uh, oh, brother's gone. He'll be back. Welcome back, brother.
listen.
You
If
literally
my
look
father
like you could be my brother. You literally look like you could be my brother, Jordan. You even have the gap in your teeth.
damn, what a nice way to reintroduce me. But
Yeah.
no, you're right.
Yeah,
No, but
yeah, maybe my dad visited Puerto Rico back in the day. I don't know.
oh, on God.
I don't know
um,
what he did before I was born. Well, actually, you're younger than me, so it would be after. But regardless,
that's right. That's right. You're old. I'm young.
yeah, by like 2 or 3 years.
It's literally by like 2 years.
JJ JJ is alt history BRG. Yes, JJ is me as a Black Latino.
Hell yeah, I could take that. That's pretty cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you got to
um,
get the hat though. You got to get the hat that you're jealous of.
go Cowboys.
But yeah,
But no, I like the hat.
thank you. But yeah, everything you said was correct. We simply have to do better. Um, so what do you think? Like, what do you think that Maoists and DSA should do? We're both Maoists, right? So, what do you
Yeah,
think that we should do to like, besides just like, I guess, scare and terrorize our comrades?
I think that what we need to do is we need to have a robust program that discusses, local level organizing from the bottom up. I think that what we need to do is go back to our roots because a lot of people forget that when Mao was beginning his own political journey, a lot of Mao's roots started from reading Conquest of Bread and reading Kropotkin, and Mao did have an anarchist backing in a lot of his early analysis, and I think that we need to go back to our roots, and we need to really push a robust mutual aid program. We need to push community defense. We need to push actual community organizing. I think that we need to offer an alternative to what has up to this point been the accepted approach. And I think that that's how we do it. I think we need to organize the ground levels. We need to organize in communities that other members of our of our group might not be the most comfortable with. I think that we need to actually be present in these communities that need us to be present. That means instead of going around every 4 years texting working class people, hey, vote for Kamala Harris because you're a bad person otherwise. Instead, we need to do community outreach, do community events. Like, I think that we need to harken back to our roots of American style organizing. Like, why aren't we having cookouts or block parties and organizing the community together, learning what everybody's dealing with, learning what everybody's struggles
Because
are, and setting these families
communists don't know how to
together.
cook. Communists don't know how to cook. I wouldn't eat shit from communists.
I know how to cook from 5 different nationalities, so you're ever in Philly, I got you.
Oh, yeah. I think I might move there after all.
I'll make you some
Yeah, you
lobster
could.
paella real quick.
I don't want no fucking lobsters. Those are sea bugs.
Oh, look at this guy.
BRG has to. You know what? Fuck y'all. Fuck. Leave my hand alone.
Well, listen, BRG is my ally in the bald communist caucus, all right? Everybody relax,
Yeah, it'll probably be my ally in the Maoist caucus soon as well.
please.
Anarchists are better bakers, not cooks. But it was good having you on, JJ. I don't want the upstate New York Socialist Rifle Association to come after me, so I think I should let them on. But is
All
there
right.
anything you want to wrap up with?
No, thanks for having me on. Good to actually finally meet you because I'd never actually met you like in any capacity before. And
Well,
yeah, I
I
appreciate
hope
the time.
I hope I didn't scare you or let you down.
Absolutely not. I'd be happy to be here anytime. Take it easy.
Lovely. All right. Now here are our buddies from upstate New York. Well, one of them at least. And many of you all might know his voice because he's been here before. What's up?
Oh, what's up? It's good to be back again.
Smedley Butler's ghost.
Yeah, some of you might know what that's a reference to, of course. Yeah, shout out to Deli in the chat. I'm friends with them.
Oh, it's good to have friends. Many communists do well. Are you a communist, Smedley?
I consider myself a libertarian Marxist, but I really don't care about labels, so just call me a Marxist, really.
A libertarian Marxist. I fuck with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. It's weird to think that when we first came on your show months and months ago, the genocide in Gaza was still relatively young, and here we are still going on, and now it's expanded to Lebanon. This just fucking tragedy.
Yeah, it's a manufactured tragedy. Like
Yeah.
America is literally backing up Israel in all of this. Like
Hmm.
yeah, our tax dollars. Every time you and I go to work, they take out the fucking genocide phantom tax.
Yeah. No money for free health care or stuff like that, but Israel needs $7 trillion again.
Yeah. Yeah, meantime, poor scum like you and me get to, I guess, die from easily preventable diseases.
Hmm. It's a shame. It's a shame, but it's expected given the fact that most politicians in this country are Zionists to one extent or another.
Yep. Well, yeah, like because you see what happened to the congresswoman from the district next to mine, Cori Bush.
Yeah,
Like she
damn
and she didn't
shame.
even she didn't even get up and say like long live the resistance.
Hmm.
She was just like, hey, maybe we should spend more time helping our people instead of funding genocide. Or hey, my my Arab, my Muslim constituents matter, and I really, really wish we could stop killing my constituents' families in the Middle East.
Mhm.
And for that, APAC dumped millions upon millions upon millions of dollars into it was the most expensive congressional race in Missouri history. One of the most expensive congressional races in United States history.
That
And what
term
happened?
keeps getting brought up each and every election cycle. It just keeps upping itself more and more and more. I need to think to people, just this phrase needs to become completely odious. Like, how long are you going to keep taking this? The most expensive election in history. Don't you have a problem with this amount of money in any election, depending on no matter who it is? Especially when it's basically, being co-opted by a group that just wants to manufacture consent for what is essentially a genocide.
Yeah. So I heard you have comrades in Georgia that are helping out with disaster relief. How are they doing?
Yeah, the North Georgia SRA chapter is currently doing some mutual aid work down there, handing out food, clothes, stuff like that. If you go to the Socialist Rifle Association's Twitter, the national
Like,
org Twitter, they released a few photos of them doing it. Sadly, North Georgia SRA, from what I see, doesn't do too much promotional material on like their Twitter or such, which it's up to them, it's their choice, but means we don't get to see too much from them. But yeah, we have comrades down there doing work.
okay, cool. Yeah, it sounds to me like they're more focused on work than they are on social. Like it always irritates me with leftist orgs. They're always like, if you spend too much time on social media, or if people only know you from social media and people don't know you from the community, that's you kind of fuck it up, don't you think?
Yeah, as the outreach director for my chapter, I kind of go by the philosophy that whatever we really do, we really should do the best to like make it known to people to an extent. Like whenever we have a range day, I always make sure that pictures are taken, that we have it advertised, because it gives the public showing that we're actually doing stuff. And also that we're just still active, of course. And I do my best to make sure that what we do is known. And it just saddens me when I see so many chapters have basically gone. Check the responses. I believe that they're in there. It just saddens me whenever I see. Oh yeah, they retweeted. That's nice. If you want to see the North Georgia SRA thing, I believe you have to check their like responses up.
And here,
Yeah, no, the replies. That's what it is. No. Oh, go back. Go back to their main page. I mean their main Twitter page. Their replies up there. You see post replies and media.
oh yeah, he's like, come
Sorry
on,
about
dumbass,
that.
fuck.
Twitter
He's like,
is
come on.
yeah, there it is. There's the post. What they're doing.
Smells like, you fucking dumbass. What are you
I'm
doing?
you fucking boomer, I swear. There, they
Oh,
even have the logos on their high vis
ooh,
vests. Good,
cool.
following OSHA regulations, of course.
SRA. It's neat.
Yep. What was I getting into before that? I've lost my train of thought, but yeah. Actually, I remember. Yeah, it just saddens me when I see so many chapters that are still active, but just don't really post anything on their socials, or just post on one social. It is what it is, but that's just my opinion. Blue Lives Matter flag. It's um Qasim on in the chat. The graphic shows a fist breaking the Blue Lives Matter flag. So
Yeah, that's cussing. No, yeah,
mm,
the Socialist Rifle Organization would definitely have a thin blue line flag as the banner on their official Twitter,
yeah,
because that's what socialists are all about.
even as a very white looking person, going when I like go undercover to like gun shows or whatever, even I don't wear blue line shit because I
What
feel
do you
gross
mean?
wearing it.
What do you mean, white looking person? Are
I
you something
like
else?
if I were to pretend to be a conservative, you would not be able to like I can play the role very very well.
I thought, yeah, I'm just tripping off you saying white looking. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a white person to me. But
No,
okay.
I mean like white. So I can blend in pretty well at events like that.
No shit.
I've gone to like NRA training stuff to like get like specific permits and stuff, and especially when you're there, you have to go undercover just because the culture with those people there.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't go wearing a shirt that says. Well, actually, I probably would go to something like that saying, um, I have a shirt that says "Armed minorities are harder to oppress." They would probably love that.
Some of them will also probably keep quiet and be like, what's this all about,
Colors with guns. That wasn't the case in my day.
Yeah.
I think.
I have a shirt that says defend equality, and it has like the pride flag with a rifle on it. And I went to a gun store once with it, and the guy seemingly liked it. He also had a bunch of like fuck Joe Brandon stuff on his wall. And it's like, okay, certainly interesting, but I guess I'll take that over, just
you
straight
know,
up homophobia.
yeah. For some reason, I don't know if it's my bluntness or whatever, but I generally don't have all that much issue getting along with like regular ass conservatives.
Same, to be perfectly honest. Like, I hang out with a bunch of conservatives, especially at my work, so I'm kind of inoculated to them, so I can hang with them and chat with them pretty regularly. I've had to be in the presence of cops sometimes, due to circumstances, and I'm able to talk with them pretty well for the most part. Uh, but that's just for my own safety reasons. Learning
Yeah,
how to talk to police is just something you should learn for your own safety's sake.
yeah. Likewise, like I work at a fucking homeless shelter. Like you got
Oh,
to deal with cops. You got to deal with
hmm
cops. So,
yeah,
like, I'm not gonna like I'm
one
not
time
gonna
we were. Oh, sorry.
yeah, like I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, you filthy, dirty fucking pig, get out of here because like I'm black.
Yeah, last
And
thing you want to do, especially when you're not white, is enrage a police officer.
I don't know. So I know a few people that are really really good at trolling them, but like, are you familiar with the Moors?
The who?
The Moors. It's
The
like this
Moor.
blacks Moors. They're basically like they're like these black sovereign citizens.
Oh,
And
now
they
the Moorish people. Yeah, now I remember. Yeah,
yeah, and they're like driving around getting into shit with the cops.
yeah.
One of my coworkers used to be one. They
Oh
do the most,
God.
and obviously everything they believe is stupid. Like
Yeah.
they believe that black people in the United States are not really black. They believe that we are our own sovereign nation called the Moorish nation, and like it's basically a bunch of woo pseudo indigenous wannabe bullshit. But they are they're fucking hilarious when it comes to fucking with the cops.
Yeah, no, I've seen that, and in general, just with these sovereign citizen types, I it's a funny cringe because I keep saying, "Holy God Almighty, do you want to get shot?" Like the stuff they can get away with at times astonishes me. Funny enough, there's kind of a similar movement in Russia where it's a bunch of people who don't believe that the Soviet Union collapsed, and that they go around saying, "I'm a citizen of the Soviet Union," and they carry around their Soviet passports, saying that like the
Oh,
Russian Federation laws don't apply to them. Very fucking
oh,
funny.
oh, yeah. But it'd be funny as hell to run into one of those guys. You cannot arrest me. What do you mean you are taking son to go to Ukraine? We are Soviet citizen.
No.
I bought Vladivostok.
Uh,
My father was in Gulag. I bought Vladivostok in 1969. There is no Russian Federation.
one second, one second.
What's up, Smedley? Oh, I hope Smedley hasn't been kidnapped. But
Sorry,
anyways,
my mic was being a little weird. Also, you're very quiet now. I don't know why.
oh, because something turned my mic down. I don't know why.
Oh, that's better. That's better. Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say something, but I just forgot. Oh, you brought up Vegas Tenold like a few minutes ago in the book. Everything You Love Will Burn. Great book, by the way.
Mhm. Yeah.
Funny enough, I can't say too much, but our chapter and him might be collaborating sometime in the future.
Cool.
In doing something with us. Yeah, he's a real cool guy. So keep an eye on us. Something cool might be coming out of that.
I definitely will. I'll even have you guys back on to talk about the something cool. But yeah, I think I read his book when it first came out, and I recommend it to everybody. I recommend it to everybody that wants to like understand the enemy, because like most of these guys are a lot like us. They're just shit posters, like
Yeah, I
mid
mean,
20-something shit posters.
I mean, Heimbach started off on the political left, and then he just
He was a Trotsky. He was a Trotskyite.
Yeah, and then he just drifted more to the right, and then he supposedly leaves the right, and now he's a patsock. You know, I don't even really know what to say.
He got kicked out of the NSM movement.
For
Jeff
being a
Schoep's outfit, I think.
Yeah,
Or did
before
he?
Jeff Scoop left and reformed himself, we can never truly know if he did it genuinely or he just wants
That's
to
their
get out.
grift. That's their grift. I mean, honestly, I would say that the best thing to make sure that a Nazi is converted is to just shoot the motherfucker, but regardless.
Oh, I guess to an extent he's out of the movement and thus he's not actively recruiting for it, so I guess that's a plus, but, you know, different ideas, whatever.
I still don't trust the motherfucker. Like,
yeah, I'm not going to fully trust him, but I got more pressing matters than Jeff Scoop of all people at the moment, you know?
Yeah. I didn't know his name was pronounced Scoop. I've been pronouncing it Scope.
Scope. I mean, who really gives a shit? Heimbach, whatever.
It's all kraut bullshit.
I mean, Heimbach got kicked out of the group because he considered himself a Strasserist, but they kicked him out saying that he was a communist, which I guess they were kind of right because he turned out to be a Nazbol.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't identify Nazbols with us, but he's so fucking like he's so fucking terminally online, just like a lot of these weirdos. And like, you actually thought that you were going to get to. First of all, he actually thought that these fucking ex-cons and dope fiends and alcoholics knew what a Strasserite is. That just shows how. And if one of my favorite parts of Everything You Love Will Burn was when he went to this neo-Nazi gathering. What was it? Hammerfest, I think. He went there. And he was trying to lecture to these drunk ass skinheads about why they should support Bashar al-Assad and Vladimir Putin.
I mean, first and foremost, none of these skinhead types are going to care at all about stuff like the finer ideological points of Bashar al-Assad, Hezbollah, or whatever. They just think that, they're Muslim, that means they're here to kill our Christian white women or whatever. You know, it really does. They don't give a shit. You know, the idea that he was going to go into the NSM and try and actually reform it into some kind of serious political organization. I mean, that was a dead idea from the start. I mean, the NSM had been bleeding membership to the alt-right beforehand, and the whole skinhead movement, just isn't where it used to be, like where it was in the 90s.
Yeah, like those old school, a lot of these guys, Nazis have fucking movement elders too. Like a lot of these guys, they cut their teeth in the late 80s, early 90s. Like there was a really, really good documentary I saw a year ago. It was about it was covering it was basically following a group of skinheads, and I think this was 91, 92, before I was born. But the Reagan era and the aftermath of the Vietnam War and neoliberalism, that basically provided a sort of what do you call it, a shitty stew, just like the fallout from the 2008 financial / economic crisis and the recession that we've never really recovered from. That's laid the foundations for the rise of fascism, because the left isn't doing its fucking job. It's too busy squabbling amongst itself. Meantime, our enemies are arming, they're training, and they've actually shed bodies. Like, we have actually lost comrades to these people. So we have to get our shit together.
The skinhead movement was immensely viable because a lot of these people did not care about the idea of building a mass movement or gaining political power, they lean far more into we want to drink, we want to do drugs, we want to go into the street, and we want to beat people up. That's why groups like the Hammerskins and White Aryan Resistance were far more popular and appealing to these people than, I don't know, some suit and tie organization where they're going to be getting on the
David.
ballots or someplace.
Yeah, like David fucking Duke. Like most of those people can't stand David Duke.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because there's sections of it that like revere him as like an old head figure in the movement, and of course there are people who are like, "Oh, David Duke, that cuck." It's like, why should we even talk to him?
Didn't he just endorse the fucking Green Party?
Yeah, I think he did that to like troll. Which, okay,
kind of like fucking Rick Spencer endorsed Biden.
Yeah, I mean, Richard Spencer is at the point where he literally has like no other avenues to like do anything. So now he's just kind of become a Twitter reply guy. That just shows how much his position in the alt-right has deteriorated, and how the alt-right kind of like as a movement and as a term is kind of dead. Like and some people may disagree with me, but yeah, the alt-right is dead. There still is fascism in the country, but that terminology and that space is gone. All the people who used to be like the big media figures in it have moved on or have just become straight up open neo-Nazis.
Yeah. Like the biggest fucking figure of the online right now is Elon Musk. Like you have you've got the richest fucking man in the world. And I guess this is just demonstrable proof of how successful they were. Like between 2015, 2016, 2017, their heyday. I guess you could say the heyday of Antifa as well. But like back then, and I don't want to say back in the day because I'm not that old. Shit, I was there, but I'm only 30.
It certainly feels like that to me, being slightly younger here.
Yeah, it feels like fucking 20 years ago, but like Charlottesville, like in my city, there was you remember when those fucking Confederate statues were coming down? Like if you wanted a fucking brawl, the dumbass Nazis were going to be there. I mean, those are good days. Good time to be an early 20-something Maoist. But
definitely.
But it shows that like you have the richest man in the world saying shit that in 2016, 2017, 2018 would still like be fringe shit.
Yeah, this is stuff that got people banned off Twitter back in the day, and that's what really hindered their movement a lot. Is that many of the social media sites just didn't really care about enforcing TOS or banning people to an extent, but then these people pushed them into doing it, and then once they lost their social media, a lot of their movements faltered because that's where they got a large percentage of their membership. And of course, also, we can't underplay the fact just how much of a disaster Charlottesville was for their recruiting efforts, because seemingly what happened after Charlottesville is that like half the people who were there basically jumped ship because they realized, oh shit, stuff like this has consequences. I need to get out of this before I get in trouble. And half of the other people are basically had to say they're going to be begrudgingly staying and possibly getting more extreme in the movement. And sadly, those half people are still around today, and they found new groups. NSM held a small rally in my town in Kentucky years ago. Union Betty, Matt, what city was that? Because I think I might know what the rally is. Pikeville?
I think it was Pikeville. I think
that was a joint rally between them, the League of the South, and the Trad Workers Party with Heimbach.
Yeah, I think Vegas talks about that in his book too. It was a shit show. They basically got ran out of town.
Yeah, I mean, they give props to Vegas. I mean, he was there documenting, the stuff at Charlottesville as well. And by his accounts, he was one of the first people to get pepper sprayed there. So, he's taken one for the team just to document all this stuff. And getting pepper sprayed, that is not a fun thing to do. Not something you want to be doing on your, weekend day.
Yeah. Not fun. I've caught a whiff of pepper spray. There was a protest against a shitty jail in my city, and they had like these Yeah, they just decided to mace every fucking body, and that's just not fun. And it doesn't matter if like you're not maced directly, like that shit travels, and
Yeah.
not cool. What is the name of the book again? It's called Everything You Love Will Burn.
hmm
Here, let me get it.
I need to get a new copy because I lost my copy a long while ago.
Yeah, God knows how much of my disposable income I spend buying books or replacing books that I've lost.
I spent my disposable income on ammunition.
Yeah. Yeah, this is just the most lousy shit. Like these guys are, like I said, kind of like us, just weird ass shit posters.
Yeah, and the thing is, these people are laughable, and you should laugh at them because that's what you should do to fascists. But with the proviso saying that, yeah, these people are laughable, but they are very well capable of doing harm. I mean, again, Charlottesville, they murdered one of our own comrades, and they severely injured a dozen other people with both the car attack and also just beating people. A person who gets forgotten about a lot, DeAndre Harris, who was just beaten senselessly by like 6 fascists with like metal poles and all that, and was nearly beaten to death in front of the cops, no less.
I remember that.
They did not give a shit. Um,
Yep, they do not. But yeah, it's highly recommend this. Everything You Love Will Burn by Vegas Tinold, little Norwegian nerd dude.
Yep.
Let's see. So, self-defense for James Alex Fields. Better not drop that stuff. Oh, a prison rape joke. Love that.
Yeah, look, he's a scumbag who deserves all of his time in prison, but I'm done with prison rape jokes. I got done with them like years ago.
Yeah, and I say this as somebody that grew up on South Park, Team America World Police,
Ouch.
and Family Guy. Like that
Oh,
shit
Christ.
is not. Yeah, you remember Team America World Police?
I still like it to an extent, but there are parts of it are like, oh man.
That is literally, I guarantee you, the average working class American Zoomer or millennial, like they've literally gotten their entire knowledge of Islam from that stupid ass film.
Yeah.
Muhammad Jihad.
Yeah. Their entire knowledge of both North Korea and Islam. It's not like an endorsement of DPRK but you know, it's just ridiculous. I get what they're trying to do with it here, but God, there are just some things about that movie that I cannot defend at all.
It's a unique cultural product. Like I recommend it to my Zoomer friends because like those of us that grew up in the mid 2000s, like the whole Iraq war thing, like it was a very, very specially weird and fucked up period in this country's history. And Team America World Police, I think captures the utter like just open racism. Like never mind like the transphobia that was around that then. Like all you got to do, listen to some of that. Like people are acting like Dave Chappelle just started doing this stupid shit. Watch any late night stand-up comic from like 04, 05, 06, 07. Like they were saying shit that would literally get you canceled today. Like it's amazing how remarkably our culture has shifted in the past 20 years. Like now you can't say shit like that.
Yeah,
Trey Parker and Matt Stone said they were trying to capture the average American mindset in that movie. I think they did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, I mean, we're now just going back to the amount of just like blatant anti-Arab racism that was back then, due to what's happening in Palestine right now. But yeah, post 9/11, being Muslim or even quote unquote looking like a Muslim in this country, it was a bad fucking time. Remember, the first person who died because of the Islamophobia after 9/11 was not a Muslim. He was a Sikh man. He was just murdered because these fucking idiots don't know who's who. Then they really don't care. They just see a brown man with a turban, and it's like, oh, we gotta kill him. He's probably a terrorist, you know?
They were too stupid to know that most Muslim men in the United States not even wear turbans.
Yeah, that's not real. I mean,
if I recall
correctly,
that's a Shia thing, isn't it?
I would not know because I'm an atheist and I'm not really knowledgeable on the Islamic faith.
Yeah, like that's why Nasrallah and the Iranian mullahs, that's why they are widows. I thought it was a Shia thing.
And then so I think it's also kind of like a regional cultural thing as well because the Taliban also wear turbans as well, or at least Afghanistan people from Afghanistan as well. Um, Again, I'm a former Catholic, so I really am not the best source when it comes to. Thank you, there, my Christian brother. I wouldn't know much about the distinctions of what they wear.
I'm not Catholic. I wasn't raised Catholic. I was most black people are Protestant. Well, unless you go to New Orleans, where most of us are Catholic.
Of course.
But yeah, most
I
black
mean,
people
New
are.
Orleans does it different from everywhere else in the states.
Yeah, St. Louis is also a really Catholic city.
Mm.
But anything you want to wrap up with?
Basically, the election's coming up. It's trying times. I know everyone's scared. Keep a positive attitude as much as you can. I know things are going bad in the world, but giving into doomerism is not something that is worthwhile. It just wastes your time and it makes you more depressed. If you want to learn to be safer, join the SRA, join the DSA, join whatever political org you think will do some good, but especially join the SRA here, and we'll try and do our best to get you better knowledge with like firearms. I worded that horribly, but I think you get the point here. So hopefully we'll talk to each other again sometime in the future.
All power to the SRA, aka aka my proletarian guard.
Free Palestine. See you guys. It was a great time being here.
All right, see you, Smedley.
Peace.
Next up, we have a comrade from the Triangle. Where the fuck is the Triangle? Let's see. Where the fuck is the Triangle, Micah?
The Triangle. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Sweet. The Triangle is Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill, Carborough in the middle of North Carolina.
The Research Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought that, yeah. I've heard of it referred to as the Research Triangle. I've never heard it called just the Triangle. So you all are divorcing yourselves from the military-industrial complex. Triangle.
Yes, and the greater idea economy of Research Triangle, I suppose.
Okay, nice. So you are from one of the, well, I guess one of the, is Triangle just one chapter?
Yeah, we have branches, kind of. They're very informal now. We've tried to slowly wind them down. I'm in Durham, North Carolina.
Okay. Yeah, so you all are one of the people that are, well, you all are one of the branches that I guess is helping to run and put together the Western North Carolina Mutual Aid Fund, which is one of the funds that this stream is trying to raise money for. So pleasure to have you on. How are things looking out there?
They're looking good. It's really nice. I think we've got $10,000 we've raised. We've dispersed a good chunk of it to mutual aid disaster relief at this point. And in order to buy some really high budget items like generators, chainsaws, and tents, like big tents. And otherwise, we were keeping some funds available for our disaster relief effort when we go to do mucking and gutting up there.
What you do? What and what?
Mucking and gutting is like a disaster relief terminology. When people's houses get flooded, you go up there and you break down their houses and gut everything that could grow mold, essentially. And you muck mud out of homes.
Never heard it put in such terms, but okay, I'm down with it. So yeah, I'm looking at mutual aid disaster relief right now, and it's very comprehensive. And donations, if I recall correctly, I checked with the IRS, are tax deductible because they do have a 501c3 registered with the IRS. So donations that you make to mutual aid disaster relief, either here or through the fundraiser or by Twitch, will be tax deductible. Now, donations that are given to the Florida Fund or the Western North Carolina Mutual Aid Fund, you should still donate to them because these are smaller efforts, but they are not tax deductible because they are not through 501c3s. So that's my legalese feel. And no, do not forget to donate. Don't just get caught up in my pretty brown face. We're here for a reason. You're here for a reason. So, yeah, I was really impressed. I actually had not. Well, I think I had, but I had not been familiar with mutual aid disaster relief's game. Like they do a lot of shit.
Yeah, and ironically, they're based out of Tampa, so they were up here helping. Like I think most of their leadership's in Tampa. They're a cross-country network, but they were up here helping when Helene hit, and then they had to, I think, reevaluate their efforts a little bit. But turns out their warehouses up here are very helpful for getting some aid down to folks in Florida as well. And Milton wasn't so bad.
Yeah,
Milton wasn't
yeah,
as bad as Helene, I mean.
yeah. As Cliff informed us, um, yeah, this is really really neat. Like I highly recommend. Like if they operate near you, and it's always good to like a lot of people wait until shit happens to start planning. Like, oh, like it's silly to like be like wait until shit happens and I'm going to go to the grocery store. Or I want to go get a generator, or here comes the hurricane is on its way, or the tornado is on its way. So let's all run to the store. Like that's why highways are always clogged up. It makes it hard for first responders. That's why there's accidents with people. That's why people are in the store fighting over the last fucking bag of rice. Like you have to. I'm not saying we should all be like reactionary preppers. Like we should all go live in bunkers in the mountains because that's bourgeois. That's bourgeois reactionary individualism. But we have to work and help save our people in a collective way, because if we all just go do our own thing, we all go live on 50 acres of land in the woods somewhere. Like that's in America is such an individualist country that whenever people talk about like disaster relief or what are we going to do if a war pops off or floods and shit like that, everybody says, "Oh, I've got my few acres. I'm going to go live in it. I've got a bunker up there." I'm like, "Bro, you got to starve to death." Or you got to, something's going to happen. The ventilation system in the bunker is going to fail, and somebody 200 years from now is going to find your desiccated corpse surrounded by a bunch of funyuns. Like we have to do this shit collectively.
Absolutely. The thing that is keeping me going is like no one up there is doing anything by themselves. Everybody is like has been forced together by the circumstances, and everybody's doing collective decision making. At least that's what I experienced when I dropped off aid there. Um, and certainly mutual aid disaster relief is fantastic. They basically just rent warehouses and mobilize the community to give them aid, and then they move it to the places it needs to be where up where the disaster is. So yeah, we work
Okay.
with them, and we work with our other local mutual aid group, Raleigh United Mutual Aid Hub. Um, we work very closely with them. In fact, we help fund the space that they provide the community, and so we get to use it as a small office on occasion. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
That's dope. So I guess we know who our quartermaster slash logistics people are going to become the revolution.
The mutual aid folks,
I say
hopefully,
that,
I'm pretty good at it.
yeah, I say that entirely seriously. So, nihilism, despair. Like I've seen a lot of people, um, not even in the area, be like, "Oh, there's no hope at all for us," and like these things are going to keep happening, and they're going to keep happening, and why haven't we made a revolution yet? Like, personally, I think that the cure for stuff like that is doing stuff like this, mutual aid and disaster relief, because you get to actually like. I'm of the opinion that nihilism is a result of being separated from the people. Because when you're among the people, you see all of the work that people do to help save themselves, to help save their neighbors. Whereas if you're just by yourself or you get all of your knowledge solely from the internet, then you of course you're gonna think that there's no saving anybody. Of course you're gonna think that everything sucks. Of course you're gonna think that we're all doomed to die because you haven't talked to anybody that would not just tell you, but who would show you otherwise. So how do you think? What do you think is the cure for nihilism, Micah?
I think the cure for nihilism is action with people who are like-minded, um, particularly organized action where you're trying to get more people involved. I think one cure for nihilism is like be making a hard ask. Getting to know someone really well and then making a hard ask that gives them an opportunity to say yes or no. If you don't ask them to help you, then they can't make a choice for themselves.
That's
Uh,
DSA language if I've ever heard it. Hard ask.
that's fair.
I just ask. I don't say stuff like that. I just say, look, can you help us out with this? And you just, I don't know. I'm very conscious in the language that I use. Hard ask.
I think it's important for me personally because uh, as a Southerner and in the South, people are very polite, and we have a very difficult time making like a not wishy-washy ask of someone. And so to sort of break us out of that, it's helpful to have a good terminology for it, I think.
Yeah, it's just glad you brought up like Southern culture, because as you know, pretty much every black person in a northern city or a western city has relatives from the South. So black people in the United States, our culture is fundamentally Southern. Um, so like that whole politeness, like I was raised like don't ever beg people for things. That's why I have a difficult time asking people for money. Because
Yeah.
like that's not how I was like that's not how I was raised. Like they'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you going out here begging these beg like I was and another thing that's just like food. Like when I'm eating with people, like I take note of how much they eat. I take note of whether or not they clean up after themselves because like I was raised, you eat one plate, you don't eat like you're starving, and you clean up after yourself. So yeah, it's weird, like how these commonalities are shared amongst people that are still in the South and people who have roots in the South. Like I'm literally one generation out of an Itabita, Mississippi cotton field. So, I'm pretty much a Southerner for all intents and purposes. People even think I have a Southern accent. Anyways,
You do sound a little Southern, that's for sure.
no, I sound black.
Yeah, I think
I don't
people
get why.
forget that, like, as a region, the South is the most diverse place in America, both racially, sexual identity-wise, and major refugee hubs are in the South, like Durham, for instance, Atlanta,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
Miami.
yeah. A lot of cultural products as well. Like Atlanta is basically the capital of the black music industry and the black film industry. Then you've got Nashville, of course. You've got Memphis. You've got the Mississippi Delta, the home of the blues, which is probably going to be underwater in a couple hundred years. But yeah, a lot of culture, a lot of history. Of course, never forget New Orleans. But I really dig Southern culture and the custom and habit of helping each other. And this communal nature, this communal trend, like it's especially prevalent amongst black Southerners and black people with roots in the South, because that was how we survived on the plantations. Like somebody runs off to go be with their sweetheart for a couple weekends. Like, of course, you're not going to tell Massa. Massa has 500 of us. He doesn't give a fuck. So, that solidarity, I think that has directly led to the viability of things like these mutual aid networks because that's tradition down there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also the church is an important component of this,
Mhm.
especially for Black people in the South. In rural areas, the church is essentially the only community people have, the only sort of thing that people go do together regularly,
Yeah,
separated from their very rural area, like very, very isolated areas, mountains, for instance.
yeah. That's why I laugh at people who insist on being basically the Marxist version of new atheists. Like you want people to be, hell yes, vape on stream, why not? But you want people to be. My coworker does that, except she thinks that she's going to get in trouble if she does it under the camera. I'm like, bro, people don't give a fuck. People smoke in here for fuck's sake. Anyways,
I try to be the same everywhere I am.
oh, Micah is very considerate. Micah is very considerate, comrade. But going back to what I was saying, like it always kills me when these jackleg wannabe Marxists, they're always like, "Oh, you cannot be a Marxist if you're religious. You cannot be a communist if you're religious." I'm like, bro, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were better communists than either one of you, and they weren't even
Absolutely.
communists. Like it's edgelord shit. It's a
At least
side like
religious
it.
people are organized. Maybe they're
Yeah,
not organized for the aims we want, but that they're organized and we should engage with them around that.
yeah. Like when somebody in a community is in trouble, they don't go to the fucking communists because the communists usually aren't there. They go to the church. Like your church can do a collection to help you pay your rent. Your church can do a collection. Shit, your church, one of the church mothers or one of the church deacons will take your kids in if you can't deal with them right now. Churches have daycare. Churches like a lot of this stuff is because these churches are registered nonprofits, so they can do stuff like that. They can raise the money to help you. Um, Shit, churches will buy you cars. Like churches do a lot for people, and to spit on that element of the community in places like Appalachia, in places like the Black South, in places like the Latino community, like it shows that it shows a real lack of seriousness in regards to organizing, does it not?
Yeah, certainly. And I get that vibe. Some interesting stuff about Durham. Durham's like the queerest city I've ever lived in.
Ooh,
Uh, it's not a majority white city here in the South. It's got a very diverse group of people here, and so it has this intense flourishing of like all sort of community movements, and everyone here is at some level politicized. It's a nice place to be, but for people who are moving here from either the West Coast or from the Northeast, they don't really understand that everyone here is acting in community. They're doing organizing in their own way. Maybe they're not doing socialist organizing per se, but the city is rife with community.
yeah. If I recall correctly, Durham was the site of one of the like basically an entire self-sustaining black community in the early 20th century.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
W.E.B. Du Bois's last stop on his tour of the South, and
Mhm. He
he
was
wrote a,
impressed.
he wrote about it glowingly. Yeah, um,
Yeah.
we were also the first city to end military exchanges between our police force and the IDF. It's a very interesting
Ooh.
place to live.
Yeah. That's why you shouldn't sleep on the South, huh? I think
That's
North
right.
Carolina. I would say that North Carolina, I think, is one of the most productive, one of the most progressive Southern states, anyways.
It's very strange place, that's for sure. I don't know if it's most progressive, but
Yeah, maybe it's because I don't know. Maybe it's because of the high level of urbanization there. I guess.
it's a place of contradictions. The Triangle simultaneously has the highest number of PhDs in the country per capita, and also we have some of the like biggest rates of poverty, and as a state, and our state's like last on workers' rights and tenant rights. It's a very interesting place to live. Sort of one of the frontiers of contemporary capital, I think, for the tech industry, especially.
Yeah. Yeah. Why are people talking about camping in the chat? I don't hate camping. I don't want to camp near a wildlife preserve and
I
leave
live
your
in a
garbage
city.
there. The fuck? Yeah. Never go. It's illegal to pitch tents in cities. Of course, not that we as socialists care about the fucking law, but like, why would I sleep outside when I've got a perfectly warm bed to sleep in? Yeah, then you got to deal with ticks. You've got fucking you go out west, you wake up a fucking buffalo and stomped your tent into pieces. Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. I don't think I've never been camping. I've been fishing once, but I kept catching baby bass and we had to keep throwing them back. Alright.
Probably go camping once a year.
Ooh, well, yeah, that's because you're a hillbilly. Anyways, uh, you're not a hillbilly. You are an effete Southern urbanite. I need to stop insulting my guests. So, um, so you mentioned the ways in which bodies, victims of the hurricane, are being policed, like being picked up and identified. We talked about Hurricane Katrina earlier. You go hunting for fox meat. Fox meat sounds gross, but go off. Anyways, like the body policing of Katrina was horrible, mainly because most of the victims of hurricanes are always people who couldn't afford to evacuate. Like rich people do not die in hurricanes. Rich people are the people like they go to the store, they buy up all the shit. Those are the people that can afford to leave. They can afford to stay in luxury hotels far, far from the place where they're going to be impacted. It's always the poor who suffer from the excesses and willful negligence of the rich, of the ruling class, from which most of our politicians are derived. So you mentioned that the body policing method that is used in this area is remarkably similar to the one that is used in Palestine.
Yeah, I would say a little less policing and more The similarity between West NC and Gaza is certainly a medical similarity, in that people are counting bodies that cannot be identified because they're too waterlogged, and
Ugh.
because there's lots of homeless people in Asheville, because it's one of the fastest gentrifying places in the country. Its only industry essentially is tourism at this moment, which is unfortunate given the hurricane. Um, yeah, and so for me, a personal story is I couldn't contact my friend for about a week. And I found my way onto a Discord of people living up in West Asheville. And they had a missing persons channel. And so I just posted his photo, his info, and approximately where he lives. And someone was able to track down his house. They didn't find him, but they tracked down a neighbor, and the neighbor had seen him. And so after a week of freaking out about where he was, I was able to like verify that he was okay. On the flip side, I have friends who are up there pulling bodies out of rivers, and these are bodies of homeless people where there was a major encampment around Asheville, and those people can't be identified, and so their body count is not being reported yet to the news, basically. So, just like in Gaza, where community networks are finding family members and friends and trying to identify them and then report them as dead to the healthcare system they have, I guess, a semblance of. Um, and those numbers being underreported is quite similar to West NC, but different levels of severity, obviously.
So let me get this straight. If you don't have any family that can claim your body because you've been homeless as you grew up in fucking LA and you ended up in Asheville by happenstance. Okay, so if you are homeless, you have no ID on you, or it was stolen in a cop raid or something like that, you basically are an unperson that is not counted as a human being in the butcher's bill, so to speak, the people that have died.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
That is remarkably and incredibly fucked up.
Yes. Very much so. And of course, extremely traumatizing for the only people who care about them, which are the people who do mutual aid with them every week, who are trying to identify them. People are talking about pulling body parts from trees because the flood was so bad there.
Jesus. And can you imagine? Like, this was still like nobody goes through life just completely walled off from human beings. So, 40-year-old man, 35, however, like somebody gave birth to this person. Somebody went to school with this person. Somebody might have went to college with this person. Somebody like might have like they have kids, they have great like everybody deserves to be identified. Like nobody just deserves to fade into the ether of history or just disappear off the face of the earth. Like now that's got me morbid. You made me sad, Micah.
I'm sorry.
Imagine if me or you ended up like that. Like we're driving down the fucking highway, and then before it knows, like I saw y'all's roads down there. It just fucking collapsed into ravines. Like that's how people disappear.
Yeah.
And you and me, we get swept out of the car, and maybe they'll find my glasses or something hanging from a tree. That's a horrible way to go, man.
Absolutely. And personally, I'm a bartender, and I have very close connections to all the homeless people around here. Well, to the ones who are near my bar, and I do imagine it every day. Like, where do you go to sleep? What do you do when it snows here? We have pretty
Yeah.
bad floods here in Durham too. It's not like we're expected to get more rain from climate change, so our flooding has just been getting worse. Um,
I work at a homeless shelter, and well, I've worked at two in the past 3 or 4 years. But it always fucks me up when we lose clients. Thankfully, none have ever. Well, one guy did die in the shelter that that wasn't my shift, but it fucked me up because I Narcan this guy a couple days ago and helped save his life. Then he OD'd again, and there was nobody to come get him.
Yeah.
And he died. Yeah, and then the shelter I work at now, a couple people have died. I actually saw one. He was he died in a vacant lot, surrounded by random junk and a hat that I gave him. And that had me feeling some type of way for months. Like I helped this dude, I had let this dude had and shared with me his struggles growing up, his pain. He had been a boxer, all types of stuff, and now he's fucking dead. Like humans weren't meant to consistently go through stuff like that. That's why I respect people that work in that work around death so much, because this stuff takes a toll on you.
Absolutely. Yeah, my uncle passed away homeless in Texas last year. They found his body. I think he had had a heat stroke in his
Yeah.
van. But stuff's near
Very,
and dear to my heart, that's for sure.
yeah, very, very common, and like a lot of announced people are migratory. So if they're in New York in the summertime, then they're gonna be somewhere down south, like they might be in Florida for the wintertime. Like they're like snowbirds. They follow the warmth. That's why, like St. Louis, this is the time right now, like late October, early November. You try to find somewhere to lay up for the winter, or you make plans to leave. Some people even go to jail because, like, you don't want to be out in this cold. People lose fingers and toes and this shit. We had a polar vortex a couple years ago. The wind chill got all the way down to negative 35 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the type of weather that kills people. So,
Maybe to
disaster.
maybe to like draw a few more connections. In Florida, like just 2 weeks ago when Hurricane Milton hit, there's a whole prison that wasn't evacuated.
I remember hearing about
Was
that.
left to flood, and
Yeah,
those are all the same people already experiencing violence. They're already the people who have been on the street homeless. You know, they don't deserve to be forced to be drowned to death.
yeah. They did the same thing in Katrina, like the Orleans parish. They basically, like, the fucking electricity went out, or water hits one of those open wires, and now boom, you just electrocuted 30 people. Electrocution is a horrible fucking way to die, by the way.
Yeah.
Like your fucking eyeballs melt. But yeah, they consider prisoners. And then the thing with Florida was they literally made the prisoners go and sandbag and do all of this work, unpaid, of course, and then they locked them back into the cells to drown. And they still make them wear the old school black and white, like striped shit, like prisoners in old movies wear. They do that to humiliate people. Joe Arpaio, if you remember him, he used to make the inmates wear pink underwear, trying to emasculate them. Yeah, that's why we call prisons. That's why we call prisons and jails torture chambers. That's why good socialists are always prison abolitionists.
Absolutely, that is a key thing I would like to do.
Yeah.
How about we just build public housing and house all those folks there?
Yeah. Well, Foucault would probably call public housing a prison, anyways. But you cannot make the people live in the house. They want to be homeless. That is on them. Televangelists hate the homeless. Just like, I'm surprised somebody hasn't burned down Joel Osteen's church yet. Because every time a hurricane comes, he locks people out.
If I would like to say one thing that has kept away nihilism, other than action, is every chapter in the country, like almost every chapter in the country, has in some way helped support this effort. Like, and New York is doing like a comedy night as a fundraiser.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Some other chapters just send us direct donations. Folks are gearing up to come do housing cleanup with us. National, especially big thanks to our field organizer Eric and Megan Romer, our NPC co-chair. They've been extremely on the ball. Yeah, Megan's awesome.
Yeah, I've had the honor to talk to her many occasions. Very, 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 very good and on the ball comrade. Really happy to have her on the as one of our co-chairs.
Yeah, so just seeing that everyone cares about crisis has been really giving me a lot of hope.
Yeah, I've even quit hating on fucking Red Star. Not Red Star. Not Red Star. North Star.
Oh,
because that kid that runs that Twitter and is
you don't have to quit hating on them.
Yeah, but like Yeah, that doesn't mean I want them fucking swept out into the fucking Gulf of Mexico, though.
No,
Like
that's for sure.
just because somebody is my political opponent, or just because somebody's a dick to me, that doesn't mean I want them to die. Especially if they're in the same organization that I am.
If they are a worker, I am for them.
Yeah, that's a very, very good way to combat sectarianism. Like, yeah, I don't need fucking like we have enough enemies that can actually do us real damage. We shouldn't be busy making enemies of each other.
Certainly.
Deli says maybe they don't want to do mutual aid after all. Maybe you should. What else are you going to do? You're not doing anything else. Like what else do you have to do?
Come do mutual aid. They're so nice.
Yeah, sit and stare at me all day. Go be useful for a time in your life.
I like that your shtick is just being mean to your guests and audience.
Yeah. One of my fucking clients called me at the shelter, called me the Black Dennis Miller. I have that deadpan, sarcastic sense of humor. But it's not a shtick. I'm not I actually am an asshole in real life.
I look forward to meeting you in real life one day.
Of course. All right. We got a comrade. I thought that Gumbo was from fucking Houston. Apparently they are from Austin. They're all the same. Plus they're from New Orleans. See, they're from New Orleans. So Houston is close to New Orleans. So y'all from Houston today.
I'm also from Austin originally.
Really?
A lot of good people Austin sends out into the world.
Yeah, the Red Guards. All right. So what do you want to wrap up with, Micah?
Thanks everyone in DSA for helping out. You can also get plugged in like through our Instagram. You can DM us. Yeah, free Palestine and free the workers.
Free Palestine, free North Carolina, free the Research Triangle.
Absolutely.
Micah for dictator. All right, bye, comrade.
Bye.
Oh, look at this.
So,
I'm glad
comrade,
you corrected me a day before we did this in regards to the chapter that you're from. I don't know why I thought you were from Houston.
I saw the graphic and I was like, oh, they got somebody from Houston, so I guess I'm not doing this anymore. So
Yeah,
I wasn't even thinking I was doing it until
you're the
now.
somebody from Houston. I thought you didn't even bother to correct me.
I didn't listen. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Ricky from Houston said I'm honorary Houstonian today. So forget the plane.
You are from fucking New Orleans.
Yeah, originally.
Run into any Red Guards recently?
Not in a while. They reformed this thing called Revolutionary Study Group. And they keep trying to.
They always have the most generic names.
Yeah. And a few of them have come up to me at like jail support or protests, and they've been like, hey, we really want to get involved with the Austin for Palestine Coalition, which our chapter is a member of. And, we don't even have to vote. We just want to like be in the room just to see what's going on. And I'm like, that's even more sus than you.
They want to be in the room to figure out how to wreck.
Mm-hmm.
Like they really think, do they not understand that people have been dealing with them for years? They know how they move.
Yeah, I think they think because they published that expose about Jared Rourke, Comrade Dallas, who's like the cult leader of it all, that they're all absolved. And we're like, no, we don't trust any of you. You can.
Yeah, you all did some fucked up shit to people, man.
Yeah, they would bust up our meetings. They would throw like paintballs or paint like balloons at our members, throw firecrackers in our outdoor meetings. They stalked and harassed a couple members specifically.
Oh, you were there. You were in Austin. You were in Austin DSA when all that shit was happening.
I joined towards the end of the Red Guards, like not long before I moved from North Louisiana out of college to Austin, and it was like late 2021. They were still kind of around, but they had died down a little bit. They busted up a couple of our outdoor meetings that I was on Zoom for or like working because I worked food service at the time. and then they kind of just disappeared. And then we found out that the cult leader guy got arrested for felony firearm possession or something.
Yeah, dumb shit. Yeah, that's why I think that's part of why the Red Rabbit started, like to help defend our meetings and stuff against like I wasn't in DSA like around 2019, 2021, whatever. But like yeah, you gotta defend yourself. Like you can't allow people you can't say that you're gonna defend the people and can't defend your own meetings. Like
Yeah,
the
that
people
we have like a Red Rabbits formation we call Red Bats here. So we make sure like one entry and exit, no alternative entry for our general meetings, and we have people like kind of do a perimeter check every once in a while. We run a protest safety de-escalation de-arrest training every month or so that goes over like conflict de-escalation, common police tactics and formations, a reading of Exiting Law and Entering Revolution by Basil Al-Raj, and then like basic self-defense. So like how to use a hammer fist, a chop, how to use your knee, where to go for on a body. And then we practice a couple of us being cops trying to arrest the rest of the group and like not and like holding the line. It's fun. It's basically just like an excuse to wrestle for an hour.
in my old org, we used to do stuff like that. Like we were taught like formation, marching, stuff like that. And it really came in handy. Like if you're at a protest that turns chaotic, people are gonna gravitate towards the people who look like they know what the fuck they're doing. That's
Yeah.
generally how it is. Like we were able to take over so much liberal shit that way.
Well,
Delhi asks, no, go ahead.
I was gonna ask what org you came from, but you can go to the chat first.
For the people, FTP.
Nice.
FTP SPL.
Yeah, I
But,
think there was an FTP in New Orleans too.
There was. The thing with FTPs was that people would get really, really excited, and then they would realize what mass work entailed, and then they would just like slowly drift off. Like, yeah, one of the most irritating aspects of organizing. Delhi asks, is it wreckerism to infiltrate a cult, make many friends, and organize a coup, turning it into a normal war? Well, the thing is, cults are kind of inoculated against that type of thing because of the nature of what it requires to get into a cult. Like to be in the Red Guards, you basically had to be brainwashed. That's why they had all these fucking college kids who were otherwise generally normal people. And what they do is they split you away from your family. Like they're like, oh, those people from the org you used to be in, those people are revisionists, or they would manufacture bullshit about people. And so they would isolate you and fix it so that the only people that you knew in the org that you knew in town, they also really, really targeted transplants, like people who had just moved to town. So they would be your friends, and then you would get roped more and more and more into stuff. And next thing you knew it, you were throwing fucking rotten eggs at gumbo. So I would not recommend you join. I would not recommend you infiltrate a cult. And then, like, most of these organizations are so small. Like, why would you orient towards them in the first place? Like, why would you waste your time and subject yourself to all types of emotional and even physical abuse? For what purpose? No, just leave them be. They always collapse on their own.
Some of the former. Oh, my bad. Some of the former members wrote this. You can look up like Maoist Cult Exposed. I think it's .wordpress.org.
I mentioned on there.
Okay. Oh hell yeah!
I was basically the Gonzalowites Trotsky for 3 years. Like they literally were obsessed with me.
That's beautiful. How's it feel to be famous?
They even split my org in half. Well, they tried to. They recruited basically all the white meathead jocks. And then they ended up starting a fucking rival group that was most renowned for putting up flyers outside of DSA meetings calling them social fascists. So yeah, not a good time. I think one of them ended up in prison, but
yeah. And that expose talks about like sexual abuse, physical abuse, harassment.
Oh, yeah.
They at one point had like basically enslaved someone by like tying. They like got her to live with the ringleader of the cult, and then she was like doing all the house labor, and like having to exchange sexual favors, but she couldn't like leave or get a job. She was doing childcare.
Yeah, they made her stay and take care of the baby. I remember when Dallas got got Avanti. That was the no, Akili. I remember when Dallas got her pregnant. I remember when they had that baby. He wrote this weird culty ass poem about the kid. I'm like, damn, this kid
No.
never had a fucking chance. But yeah. So how are things going in Austin? Red Guard's fuckery aside.
It's fine. You know, in terms of DSA, we've been waging a pretty strong internal line struggle for anti-Zionism. We have a no appetite for apartheid campaign styled after the Palestine Solidarity Working Group with a couple dozen businesses signed on,
Okay.
showing like apartheid-free posters on the front window. Um, we have a much closer relationship with PYM than we used to, and we've had this Austin for Palestine coalition. It's Austin number 4 Palestine.org, that we've done really incredible stuff, in my opinion. We shut down about 10% of South by Southwest this year because about over 120 musicians and panelists backed out because the festival was sponsored by the U.S. Army and by Raytheon and a subsidiary of Raytheon, Collins Aerospace, and then by BAE Systems, all three of which are on the BDS target list. And one of the artists saw our post calling that out. She dropped out. We got her on, and then they just started dropping like flies. And it was like a lot of list work that especially DSA comrades were like good at doing, because it's just work that people don't think about. Keeping track of all the artists that had dropped out, making sure to like make playlists and point to their Bandcamp and all kind of things to keep up like a cultural pressure. They still haven't reported their like earnings from this past year, and they usually report them within a month. So we know we did some damage. Most of the South by Reddit was just, why did this band cancel? Why did this band cancel? And then we have some fuck the police stuff. They're trying to ratify a police contract because our Austin Police Department has been out of contract for about 2 years now, and they want to run through a new contract that'll add like $200 million to the police budget, and any single cent given to the cops is never going to be taken back because of Texas House Bill 1900 that forces cities to keep funding for their police departments at the 2019 level, and if they go below that, they lose tax returns or tax money or whatever. So making sure council doesn't do that bullshit.
Yeah, so it sounds like one thing that I really, really like about being in DSA is like talking to comrades from random chapters, not just on stream, but like in general. Finding out all the good work they're doing.
Yeah, it's go ahead.
No warmongers at South by Southwest 2024.
Yeah, it was a hell of a week.
Yeah, I imagine.
You know, we threw together like 3 pop-up shows to catch as many artists as we could and like give them a place to play that was outside of the festival. All 12 Irish acts got up on stage together and announced that they were boycotting together.
I remember fucking Kneecap was there.
Yeah.
Those are my fucking boys. Like, I just like their smarmy. I like how they've been able to like take an art form developed by African American people, by my people, and like they're not trying to basically copy us, but they've added their own rich Gaelic tradition of like rhyming and toasting and all of that, and they've made something really, really cool.
Yeah, and they've used it to like revitalize the Irish language too. They're like pointing to the fact that it was taken from them, and they're like, no, we can take this back and also look at other radical traditions to do it, which I really appreciate.
I think the guy that always wears the tricolor balaclava, I think he actually used to be a Gaelic teacher.
Oh shit, that's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, that is really, really cool. Maybe revolution isn't impossible. If you believe that revolution is impossible in the US, what are you doing? Just being sanctimonious on the internet? Like, what if you believe that revolution is impossible in the United States, why are you here? Yeah. Gumbo, I didn't know you were a chain smoker.
Yeah. I picked it up after October 7th.
Real? Are you serious?
Yeah. A lot of the Amos here and like a lot of our Arab community in general are chain smokers, and so in like hanging out with them, I would smoke socially, so I'd always have a couple on me, and then we'd be talking or like coming out from a council meeting or something, and they're smoking, and I'm like, you know what, this seems like a nice thing to do with y'all, and now it's a habit. I gotta
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah. How old are you again?
I am 27.
Yeah, it's the perfect time to quit. Tone indicators BRG get. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I think it's the /J. They're joking.
The, I don't know. I'm an easily confused individual. Yeah. I wasn't going to let you do a Boomhauer impression on my stream, by the way. That is, I've said I was not about to let you do a Boomhauer impression on my stream.
I've
sorry.
been practicing. Look, I got my little copy of the manifesto out.
You
I
know
was
what?
sitting out here on the porch last night. I was like, let me practice my Hank Hill. I was
Do
watching
it.
the episode where
Do
Luann
it.
votes communist. We'll just do a little bit because I don't know how long
I'm
I
going
can
to
keep
go.
going.
I'm going to go smoke.
Okay.
If my chatters are mean to you, let me know and I will flay them living.
No, it's fine. All right, Bobby. It's time I set you down since you're a man. Ripe old age of 13, just like the Jews do. I'm Jewish, it's okay. We're going to read the Manifesto of the Communist Party by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Now, Bobby, a specter is haunting Europe, the specter of communism. And damn it, Dale, I told you to get off my lawnmower. Now, Bobby, all the powers of old Europe have entered into a holy alliance to exorcise this specter. That's the specter of communism, you hear me? Pope and Tsar, Metternich and Guizot, and French radicals and the German police spies. And now, where, Bobby, is the party in opposition that has not been decried as communistic by its opponents in power? Where the opposition has not hurled back the branding reproach of communism against the more advanced opposition parties as well as against its reactionary adversaries? Bobby, I want you to know two things result from this fact. One, communism is already acknowledged by all European powers to be itself a power. And you know, our great hero George W., he's a communist too. And number two, Bobby, damn it, boy, it is high time that communists should openly, in the face of the whole world, publish their views, their aims, their tendencies, and meet this nursery tale of the specter of communism with a manifesto of the party itself. To this end, and I want you to listen now, communists of various nationalities have assembled in London and sketched the following manifesto to be published in the English, French, German, Italian, Flemish, and Danish languages. I see George Washington's political views are similar to Adolf Hitler's, and I agree. Yeah, I saw you, Kasan, mention in the chat earlier, maybe it was somebody else, about Texas being the land of the Comanche. We are also on Tonkawa, Karankawa, and Carrizo Kamakrudo land, just in case you were keeping track. There's a decent tribe here, or decent sized tribe of Karankawa in Austin that does powwows and has been organizing around getting access to some of their historic sacred sites back. I think they just recently got like firm access and ownership over one of their heritage sites east of town near Bastrop. And there's a lot of indigenous organizing down in Corpus Christi in the coastal bend. So I've never been on a stream before, especially not alone. I have no idea how to keep y'all entertained. But please, if you haven't already, donate to the MADR Mutual Aid Disaster Relief donation link and support people recovering from Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. Don't ever give to the Cajun Navy. I guess I could tell a story. I was doing disaster relief in Lake Charles, Louisiana after Hurricane Laura, 2020. I think it hit on the 15th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, but a little bit further west. And we went down, like me and three friends, comrades from our YDSA chapter there. And we were like tarping roofs and stuff, and we had heard that there was supposed to be there was like a small airstrip or small private airport or something, and we had somebody flying in on a single propeller plane with a bunch of supplies from Asheville, North Carolina, which was hit by Helene and where a lot of MADR people are. And so we're preparing to go get this shipment of stuff and find out that a couple fascists posing as Cajun Navy or in some Cajun Navy formation had pulled up on the runway and taken all of the shit that we were supposed to get for themselves, and were giving it out to people or maybe using it for themselves. So yeah, fuck the Cajun Navy. They're racist. And they're not even real. There's like a dozen fucking organizations that call themselves the Cajun Navy because it was just a bunch of dudes in boats after the 2016 floods in the spring across central Louisiana. And the news was like, it's the Cajun Navy. And then a bunch of right wing people were like, oh, that sounds cool. So
You talking about those rednecks with boats and guns that just go
Mhm.
around? Those people after Katrina, those people were going around Algiers, New Orleans, shooting people.
Different group, I mean, same ideology, different group of people, but yeah, it started off as just like good old boys with boats, and then it's become like this quasi militia that calls itself the Cajun Navy. But there's plenty of documentation of them refusing aid to black people or prioritizing aid to white people, claiming that they've done things that other groups did, usually getting their boats stuck because they don't actually have training in search and rescue, and they get themselves in situations where the Coast Guard has to rescue them first, which is the exact opposite of what you should do in a disaster zone.
Yeah, hold on. Let me because I have So I'll go back to this article like a lot. Yeah, see, post Katrina, white vigilante shot African Americans with impunity.
Yep.
There's actually a Black Panther, a former Black Panther that lives in Algiers.
Malik Rahim.
Malik Rahim, and he was like talking about how like these assholes were just going around and this just goes back to like disaster relief after fucked up shit like this happens. I don't want to hold power to account. Go away. Anyways, like everybody's supposed to be pulling together, but this just shows the primary contradiction of the United States. Like, for whatever reason, well, we know the reason, but like, white people, settlers, and black people, and of course, the onus is entirely on the settlers. It just doesn't click. I mean, there have been instances like I'm really impressed by what's going on in Appalachia. Like you have people from a variety of different ethnic backgrounds. Like, look, we all live here. We all got to help each other out. But like New Orleans was fucking horrible. Like people that were supposed to be banding together as workers, they were instead going out shooting their fellow workers because they were black. And like they would just leave people's bodies lying on the side of the road. Here, come get them, like fucking roadkill or something. It was atrocious. And I think a lot of white people in this country, like they want shit like this to happen so that they can engage in their stupid little race war fantasy. Like, oh yeah, this is now that this has happened, now that law and order has completely broken down, now we get to go out and we get to settle accounts with the blacks. And now, like, it would be settling accounts with the Mexicans. So yeah, that's why self-defense amongst colonized people and the left is important, because they're not just after colonized people; they're after leftists. They see, oh, you've got a Zippo too, lovely. Mine is red.
I
Yours is
picked this
gold.
up. Me and my
Yours-
partner watched a K-drama called Vincenzo about this guy born in South Korea, raised in Italy to adopted parents who joined the mafia, and then went back to South Korea to get like a bunch of money and gold he had stashed in a basement of a tenement building. And then he had to like convince the tenants to move out, and he was gonna rehome them, but he kills several people by like covering things in gasoline and then dropping a Zippo. He's like a collection of Zippos. And I'm like, damn, that's cool. So I got one. But yeah, all the vigilante stuff after Katrina is one, was enabled and organized partly by the state, because the National Guard came in and basically declared the entirety of New Orleans basically a conflict zone. Like they were like, it's complete lawlessness. There is no control of the state. The state has disappeared. It's where a lot of the "you loot, we shoot" rhetoric started to really gain traction. It's where mutual aid disaster relief hails from, in a way, because all of that like white violence caused a lot of the Black community in Algiers to form Common Ground Collective. So they organized self-defense around kind of a central area in Algiers with a lot of Malik Rahim's help, and were keeping these vigilantes from getting further into the community. That became a health clinic, a free health clinic, a free store, free food. They had at one point like upwards of 20,000 people kind of working to serve food, medicine, anything. People from all over the country came in to help. A lot of anarchists, a lot of the anti-war movement connections were made prior to that, and they came in. There's actually a famous example of two guys from Austin who came in, Scott Crow and Brandon Darby. And Scott Crow's got a book
Darby,
out called Black Flags and Windmills. Darby is the one who became an FBI informant sometime in there. But Common Ground, a lot of the people that worked in Common Ground went on to help with Occupy Sandy, which was an outgrowth of the Occupy movement after Hurricane Sandy. That became mutual aid disaster relief not long after, and really started to coalesce around Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico. And then now we're here. So
this Navy sounds like another regional militia of fascists. Where's DSA's militia at? Let's see, the thing is, DSA cannot have a militia or an armed group tied to us because we're a 501c4 or something like that.
yeah.
So, yeah, all of our electoral shit would be kaput because, like, yeah, we'd be basically defined as, especially because of DSA's size, like we'd be defined as a terrorist organization so fucking quick. It would be, yeah, it'd make your head spin. So, yeah, if DSA does set up such a formation, it would by necessity be underground. And two, it would not be able to be officially affiliated with the DSA because that would create a lot of problems. Like we literally have people who are elected to office, like and that would bring too much negative attention on them. And then like you already have Marco Rubio, he's coming after Unity of Fields, a really
Yeah.
good anti-imperialist collective, and they'd love to get their hands and get their claws on DSA. Do we have private security? No, we do not. We have okay, so every branch, every chapter, I think, has people who know that type of thing. But yeah, no, we would not be able to get away with having a militia formally tied to DSA.
Yeah, there's a lot of like strongly held liberal beliefs in a lot of DSA chapters too, around guns in particular, which I can understand on one level, being someone left of center in the US and needing to grapple with what gun violence has done to this country, and also understand the role of violence in a decolonial and revolutionary movement. I don't think we're there. I don't think it really makes practical sense to advocate for DSA having militias, although I do think about it sometimes. But we were talking earlier about the Red Rabbits, and that's kind of the closest to security we get for Arthur. It's like informal organizing from members in various chapters who understand conflict de-escalation and are often willing to like get into physical conflict in order to keep it from escalating for the rest of the chapter. So like, you know, we've broken up a couple Nazi meetings here in Austin, and it's just like a small group of some DSA members, some unaffiliated anti-fascist people in a collective I'm in, rolling up and like telling them to fuck off, and then maybe getting in a fist fight, leaving before the cops show up. But it's not an easy thing to organize openly as much as it should be.
But the thing is, a lot of people, like a lot of younger comrades, like that's the type of action that they want. Like they don't want to. We have to take advantage. We have to be able to take advantage of the energy of our comrades who. Then they're not going to go around knocking on doors for Democrats. They're not going to phone bank, but they will definitely show up to beat the fuck out of a fascist. And it's
Absolutely.
good. Like it's good we have people like that. Like we need people like that. So it's just like some of our comrades are really, really good at electoral work, and that's important. Like I used to be a hard abstentionist, but I'm not anymore. Dominic, what the fuck are you doing? We got comrade from Seattle here. Yeah,
Sorry.
I guess. Yeah, I guess the three of us can hang out. But Dominic, how you doing? My
Not too
favorite
bad.
anarchist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry for popping in early.
you're all right.
Not too bad. I heard the security discussion, and it's always interesting to try to get the guy punching fascists to try to go knock doors. I've seen it done successfully, though.
We
Yeah.
found ways to integrate that in our canvassing though, through like having basically like a I don't know, crisis response team or something. When we've done big canvases, we'll have someone who's kind of mobile support. And if anyone gets into an interaction they're not like comfortable with as a canvasser, somebody else can roll up and like handle it. So it's a way of it's not fist fighting Nazis necessarily, but like when we're tabling or canvassing, having people there whose role is to help with that conflict makes our canvassers safer and feel safer and more effective at what they're doing, and also keeps someone from interrupting. I like an example I always like to cite is when we were tabling at my college campus for a sex work decriminalization bill in Louisiana. We had like a Turning Point USA chapter that popped up on campus specifically because we had a YDSA chapter and they didn't like that there were commies running around. And she tried to come and like talk to us about how premarital sex is a sin and abortion is a sin. And it was my job to deal with the conflict. So I just started asking her questions about how that, like, she was a paid organizer for TPUSA. So I was like, well, how do you get paid? Like, y'all have a union? What's up? Found out that they get paid per signature they get on their little sign up forms. And all of the employees are competing against each other. So they get paid based on how good they do at their job. And she didn't seem to think that was a problem. And I just was slowly walking away from the table as I was having this conversation, but she was locked in on me. So it kept her away from all the people actually having good conversations and like organizing. And it kept them focused. And I just had to, I don't know, go to therapy later because she started telling me about how the Democrats eat babies. And I just
Yeah, a
looked at
lot
her
of
and was
people.
like, really? They eat babies? She said, well, some of them do.
A lot of people. Yeah, like a lot of that's a perfect example of de-escalation. Like a lot of people think that de-escalation is just running around hitting folks. Like, no, you don't do that unless they bring the violence to you. Like,
Yeah, de-escalation is usually the opposite,
yeah,
at least at first.
And it's not necessarily the opposite of like when there was that call to escalate for Gaza, that came out through like a lot of the same Unity of Fields channels, and people were like, "Oh, we can't have marshals at our protests. We have to escalate, escalate, escalate." And it's like you need to weigh your options. Like I'm not gonna go to bat with the cops when I'm between 3 lines deep of cops and horses and cars, and on the other side of me are like children and elders and people with strollers, because that's
lot of
not a
people.
time to fight the cops.
No,
But
a lot of
yeah,
people want
go
to
ahead.
bring their. A lot of people have a martyrdom complex,
Mhm.
and that's fine. If you want to go out and do something stupid to get yourself killed by the police, or if you want to go out and try to set yourself on fire, that's fine. But you have to keep into account, you have kids, you have elders, you have people who are physically disabled, people who didn't sign up for that shit. Like watching
Autonomy
somebody.
doesn't, yeah, autonomy doesn't preclude responsibility or solidarity.
Yeah, and like a lot of these people, especially younger people, like they don't get that. Like I used to be an ultra dumbass like that. Like I used to think that I was the only radical in St. Louis,
Hmm.
but it took elders pulling me aside, being like, "Yo, you're fucking up. And what's going to happen is you're going to end up in prison. Nobody's going to give a fuck about you because when you were out, you were an asshole to everybody, and you're going to be another political prisoner. You're smart. You need to be out here with us. You need to be out here helping to build a movement." So that it took and we need elders like that to help chill a lot of these kids down because their hearts are in the right place. Like Lenin said that the activity of ultra leftists is directly attributable to the mistakes that are made by our rightists. Yeah. So yeah, if you think that your only valuable leftist strategy is to phone bank until you change the consciousness of enough of these lobbyist bought Congress people, then yeah, of course, a fucking college kid is not going to want to do that because, again, people aren't stupid. They know what works. They know what doesn't work. So that's why we need a stronger movement. That's why we have to have places for these people to plug into and give full play to their method of skills. Like if you want to knock a fascist upside the head, we're all for it. But you have to be disciplined and you have to be smart so that you're not the movement isn't consistently bogged down with your legal fees because you went out here trying and started a fight that you weren't ready for, or God forbid your fucking hospital bills because you got yourself put in a hospital.
Yeah. Now I would contrast like the example I gave in comparison to like what you're talking about. I'm not going to go fight the cops when we have elders and children behind us, but the kids want to fight. And so when the student intifada came to UT Austin, it was the second big day of protest because the first day, DPS, the Department of Public Safety, Texas State Troopers were there before the protest started. And it was just a slaughter, basically. They arrested maybe 75 people that day. But it kind of bounced back about a week later on April 29th. And that day, there was more organization. I don't know if it was really organized or if it was just spontaneous, but like, we had a massive group of people. By about midway through, we had umbrellas up at the front and like a couple people on bikes, and we forced the police into a tactical retreat. The video makes it look like we pushed them back. I was there. You could see the little like squad leaders going and telling their guys what the orders were, and then they all pulled back as one. So it wasn't like, oh, we overwhelmed them. It was they realized they needed to just pull back. But they had used flashbangs, pepper spray, and there was some more agitational tactics on display, like the umbrellas, like throwing stuff at them. And they tried to drive the prison bus out with the people they had arrested earlier, and we started like throwing scooters in the street that were on the side of the road and like doing anything to block it. So like there are times when you need to escalate and know what your options are and times when you don't. And I think that really being able to differentiate that is what shows like discipline. Also, I saw Arthur in the chat asking, how do political parties and organizations have a relationship with militias without having them in the organization? I would look at like Hamas and the Al-Qassam brigades or Hezbollah and how it functions as a political party and as an armed wing. Those aren't American examples, but it's I think a good example of when you have an armed wing. Maybe the IRA. I don't know. I'm not an expert.
I mean, the other part of it is that even if we were experts, the amount we're going to say on a public stream is going to be limited. But in the United States, is not. There tends to be a good amount of separation between political projects like political parties and the more armed wing, both for liability purposes and also just you'll have unofficial crossover, but from a tactical standpoint, it doesn't make sense. One of my favorite lines from a wobbly I was talking to at one of our national conventions was that if you're gonna fuck shit up, don't be carrying a card on you at the time, and that's a big part of strategy.
I'll remember to take out my fancy DSA card that I bought. My fancy DSA card and my IWW membership card.
Hey, you saved the staff. You saved our budget with that.
Yeah. I'll think about before I go out and blow up another swing set. I'll take all my cards out my wallet.
Okay. Gumbo, I appreciated your impression, by the way, for the Communist Manifesto.
Absolutely.
I was out smoking. I didn't get to hear it.
I wanted to. Maybe we'll have you do Conquest of Bread with Dale's accent.
Damn it, Hank! I told you. I can't even think of the quotes from that one. I've only read part of it.
Just or something on direct action, because I feel like it's a very Dale thing to do. I'm down to keep Gumbo on, but you wanted to talk about how to get, I'm going to say, vanguardist and anarchist to get along, and you want to talk about dual power, right?
Yeah, it's right in the agenda. We're very organized, comrades. Gumbo, you can go or you can stay. Gumbo, you can stay or you can go on.
Speaking of extensionism, I took time off. Well, I get time off of work because I'm a government employee, so I'm going to go vote.
You're a Fed?
City. It's fine. I do
disaster.
You're a city?
Stuff. I know.
You're a city?
Yeah.
You're a cop?
Yeah, something like that. They hog our
Yeah.
budget, but then they tell us they can't give us raises. So
Also,
Yep.
what is it with Austin and bats?
we have a 2 million strong colony of bats that live under the bridge downtown.
Y'all need to get rid of those. Those things carry rabies.
Yeah, but they're
I mean,
good for
yeah.
bugs and stuff. I don't know. We got
Okay.
possums; they can't carry rabies, so it evens out.
But change your logo to the possum. I hate bats.
Oh no, okay. I'm gonna have to give this feedback to our chairs.
But yeah, Gumbo is a funny person.
All right.
Yes, most of us are
Yeah.
funny.
Everybody
people.
loves gumbo.
See y'all,
Everybody,
comrades.
yeah.
See you.
Appreciate
All right.
you.
Peace. All right, Dominic.
Yeah.
So,
So-
cannon fodder. I mean, comrade. What's up?
Hey, don't you start there. Gonna have flashbacks to the Spanish Civil War. No, so let's start. Do you want to start with dual power, or do you want to start with getting everyone to get along? Because I'm gonna
I think-
suggest dual power, but I'll leave it up to you as the interviewer.
You're the guest. I mean, I think there's a dialectical relationship between the two. We can't build dual power if we can't get along. And like anarchists aren't going anywhere, nor vanguardists. So I think it would be to our benefit to learn how to work with each other.
Yeah, I'm going to start with dual power then, just because I think it is really relevant to us getting along, and especially in DSA, we need to be more prescient of it. But also, what we have been talking a lot of today, and what you've been interviewing folks on, is mutual aid, which is a key part of dual power. So essentially, what dual power originates as is actually from Lenin, where he's using to describe the Soviets as a community / worker built structure in opposition and alternative to the Russian state. At that time, I think he was describing the interim liberal government after the February Revolution. BRG, if I'm wrong, let me know. Anyway, in the modern context, though, it is predominantly used by people focused on usually non-stakes or non-state socialism or libertarian socialism as a way of organizing specifically alternative structures and structures in opposition to the state. These structures are almost always focused on higher levels of participatory democracy and kind of the breakdown of hierarchy to expand this level of participation. The great example we've been seeing today is the mutual aid disaster relief. Mutual aid disaster relief is founded in mutual aid principles, but also in principles of participation and being an alternative to the state. Because while I respect FEMA moving in funds, they are not that efficient on the ground, especially in the immediate term, and are a very bureaucratic organization. Now, it's not always mutual aid when we're talking about dual power. A lot of dual power is stuff like neighborhood assemblies, radical unions, radical caucuses in unions, even. The labor movement, technically, if you talk to a syndicalist, it is itself an alternative in most places, but also things like worker co-ops. So if there's a good worker co-op based in revolutionary philosophy, we tend to consider that dual power. It should be mentioned, though, because we live in a state, one organization is completely a dual power organization, because you can't be. We all got to file paperwork if you're running a 501c3 or 501c4 or a worker co-op. And we all have to interact with the state because we don't have a choice. Because if we don't interact with the state will come to us and interact with us. Yes, thank you. Where did you get this one, by the way? I'm curious.
The Dictionary of Revolutionary Marxism. It's on massline.org. It's
Ooh.
yeah, it's pretty heavily Maoist influenced. But yeah, I mean, like, and the thing that we have to consider is I was reading Murray Bookchin because my chapter wants us to read Murray Bookchin. We're doing a study on him on November 6th. So one of the things that Bookchin said in Listen Marxist is that we shouldn't be slaves to the past. Like the definition of dual power in, say, 1917 Russia or in Nepal in 2006 is going to be radically different because In the United States, we are a capitalist imperialist country. So, what is our dual power going to look like? Like, what is dual power? It's a political situation in certain places and periods of time in which different and antagonistic social classes each have a share of state power. So, in the United States, because we're so localized, we're federalized. So what I think the United States would look like it would be at the local level. Like for example, say a rural, heavily black area, say the Mississippi Delta. Okay, so the government doesn't give a shit. So what happens is black people there, black organizations there, churches, revolutionary groups, etc. Or I think a better example would be Jackson, Mississippi, because if you're familiar with
Corporation
Talia
Jackson.
Kuna, yeah, yeah, very very big inspiration of mine. I've got their book Jackson Rising in that giant pile of books as tall as I am behind me. But I think that like dual power situation would look something like that, like the Malcolm X grassroots movement, which came directly out of the Republic of New Africa. They were able to, I was about to say, conquer state power, but they were able to get Chokwe Lumumba elected mayor. So that could be a move towards a dual power situation because it's not like a lot of people think that dual power is all setting up mutual aid. Like, okay, the government has failed, so we're going to go hand out masks to everybody. That's a very good program. That's a very good, what the Black Panther Party would call a survival program, but it's not dual power. What do we define power as? The ability to define a phenomenon and make it act and make it act in the desired manner, right? That's what Huey would call it. And I really like his definition. So power is basically the ability to make an institution or an individual do something that they otherwise would not do if not for intervention. For example, why do people pay rent every month? Because if you don't pay rent every month, then your landlord is going to call on the forces of the state to come kick the door in and drag you out. Eviction by force. The landlord has power over you because the state serves the landlords. I've been reading Abolish Rent. Yes, I have. But that's why people willingly, well, not willingly, but they pay rent because they're coerced. Why do people go to work every day? Because if not, you're going to be compelled to suffer and starve, and you're not going to have a place to live. So the bourgeoisie has power over the worker because they own the means of production. They own the places where we live. That's and to take power away from them requires what Huey P. Newton would call self-defense power, what I would call the ability to call upon armed force and compel them to do things they otherwise would not. Of course, we're not at that stage in the United States yet, but I think like any discussion of dual power has to be in the service of that goal. Like that's why I laugh at these uh, mass politics freaks that are not like they think that building power is basically harassing people to vote for this or that genocide. That's not building power. That is actually placing yourself in a subordinate position to power. And it's also lying to the masses because you're actually convincing them or trying to convince them that in many cases the masses are smarter than these people, that power comes through the hole in a ballot box.
Yeah, I definitely agree. A lot of the things I've run into up here as a community organizer, especially in a little bit of mutual aid, but also in community defense. Should also mention, by the way, folks, I also run one of the DSA like security committees, specifically up here in Seattle. I run the mobilization committee, which does like protest organizing as well as our security. But one thing we run into is how do we use these programs or are these assemblies, are um, or these programs as a jumping off point to mobilize people, but also to like get them to fight for the community and fight for themselves. So in the case of the Panthers, always what brought people to them, it was their survival programs. It was, to an extent, it was their rhetoric, but it was also the fact they were showing up, right? And I think we can move into but it sounds like we agree a lot on what the purpose of dual power becomes. But um, if we want to talk about I think that's a good segue to talking about how to get really organizers to get along more than anything. We're talking mainly about anarchists and vanguardists, but you can apply it to SOCDEMs, honestly, at least in my experience, and that is at the end of the day, showing up, at least in my opinion, is showing up more than anything. Um, I tell especially newer organizers all the time, look, someone can have your politics, but if they're an asshole, or if they're not showing up, or if they're not like supporting, supporting the organizing, in the struggle, they're not they're not worth shit, right? They're not your comrade in that regard.
Yeah.
So
Also, I'm just gonna bring Milo on really quick. He's early.
hi,
But,
Milo.
yeah, we need an actual proletarian. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
Is that
Doing all right?
what is that? Is that a fucking ham radio setup? What is that?
That's my stereo gear. I restore stuff like that just for fun. One of my hobbies.
Jesus Christ! Look,
Yeah.
you're in a bunker somewhere? You got a radio show?
No, I wish. It's just stereo gear. My internet cuts out sometimes, so sorry if I cut out a little bit.
It's good. This shit
Yeah.
looks like this. This shit looks like it came from the Soviet Union. Anyway, well, happy to have you, Milo. Me and Dominic
Yeah.
were just talking about how we could get along without murdering each other and how we can build dual power.
Oh yeah, important discussions. Yeah, definitely.
I think a big part of it, my dad is like this, in like the militant wing of what we would call democratic socialist, but I should mention I'm a red diaper baby, so I grew up a socialist, and I have this weird. I love him; he's an oddball, but I won't go into that today.
Well, that's cool. My dad is a born again Christian.
Mine's libertarian, so it takes all
yes.
sorts.
No, yeah, filthy commies talk about daddy.
Yeah, all the time. Actually, I was reading this book on specifically solidarity recently called Revolutionary Affinities. I'll put it on screen now. It's very French because it was written by French Marxists and translated by a guy named David Campbell while he was in jail. It's actually, he has a really cool story about it. But it's basically talking about how we've worked alongside each other, and it's citing a lot of like the non-Stalinist factions during the Spanish Civil War is a big part of it, and talking about why everybody loves Rosa Luxemburg, regardless of affiliation, and the fact that she wasn't an anarchist. We still are big fans.
Everybody loves the martyr.
Yes, everyone does love a martyr, and she would criticize everybody, which I respect. But I think a big part of, especially as an organizer, is if you're going to do theory, studying not only political theory, but doing two things. One, studying organizing theory, because there is a billion different ways to organize, but there's some very good key principles. BRG, I also know you're a big fan of full spectrum resistance, which if you want a good organizer's guide, especially around environmental organizing, it's pretty cheap. I think it's done through, was it 7 Stories? I have my copy right here. I know I bring a bunch of books on screen.
You're trying to beat me.
I am trying to beat you. I also have my bookshelf over there filled with revolutionary literature, and that's why you can't let me near a leftist book fair because I'll go broke.
I'm pretty sure I spend most of my disposable income on fucking books. And you have a bookshelf. I have a bookshelf too, but I also have 2 stacks of books behind me. I have books stacked up on my computer desk. I have a giant stack of books on my nightstand. I have an even gianter stack of books next to the nightstand that's about as tall as I am. I need another bookshelf, but I have so many books that I broke the last one that I had.
No, you sound like my dad. When I go to my dad's house, he moved down to Texas, but he doesn't have enough bookshelves for all his like his sociology, anti-racist, and socialist books. So he just has piles in like as art pieces in the corner. He has the upstairs library, the downstairs library, because he has houses are a lot cheaper in Texas than they are in Seattle. So
what type of leftist is your dad again?
He's like he hates labels in the first place, honestly, because he's been in the movement too long. But I usually place him as a militant democratic socialist, using whatever tool works. He's definitely more electoral minded than I am, but that's like he was.
Because he's older.
Yeah, but he also was like the only white union president in Tennessee to oppose the Iraq War. So he's he's an interesting guy. He does good work down with El Paso DSA as much as it exists, and some municipal organizing down there. And he's where a lot of my organizing basis comes out of, obviously, because he's been dragging me out to political action since I was 6 weeks old.
But that's dope, man. It's dope you had that. Yeah, I really like meeting red diaper babies. They're not as common as they used to be.
Yeah.
But like it's really good that you came up in that milieu. I mean, it's very, I want to say privileged upbringing, but you're not a part of the nomenclature in the Soviet Union. But yeah, it's really cool.
I'm probably part of whatever you could call the labor bureaucracy, but even that's like not really the case at this point because I'm economically independent as much as I can be.
Okay. What do you do for work again? You're an EMT, right?
I have a similar job to you. I also work in transitional housing while I'm going back to school.
Okay.
Yeah. So especially when you were talking about our clients dying earlier, I felt that a lot because we've been having some that go through our system as well.
Yeah.
But I think the other big part when we're looking at community organizing, but also revolutionary politics in general, is realizing that no one has all the answers and never has because we're all human, and no one's perfect. So trying to learn from sources that you might not fully agree with is always a good idea. Like, because you can learn much and it's going to temper your political ideology to be your own. And if we look at modern day, more revolutionary experiments like the Zapatistas down in Mexico and the autonomous zone out in Syria, a lot of times these are, start off as vanguardist orgs, Marxist, Leninist formations. I think PKK has some Maoist influence. I'm not fully clear on that. So,
yeah. Abdullah Öcalan used to actually, he was I guess you could say Maoish, but like he was never really a hardcore Maoist. There are hardcore Maoists in Turkey, but the DHKCP or something like that. But yeah, those are the guys.
Yeah,
those are the guys that go around gentrified neighborhoods beating up drug dealers.
Yeah, sometimes beating up drug dealers isn't a bad thing because I know BLA did it a little bit, but that was obviously a different scenario.
No, they were robbing them.
Yeah, they were robbing them. This is fair. This is how they funded. I think the way. Oh God, who was I? I was listening to one of the old Panthers that gets really into the Zapatista movement. I'll look this up because it will take 2 seconds. And he was talking about how they would call it.
The Panther Anarchist pipeline is real.
Yeah, Ashanti Alston. Do you know him?
I love Ashanti Alston.
Yeah, he was talking about how they never called it robbery. They just called it, I think it was like donations they were called it withdrawals. But like these experiments come out of like what's going to empower people or what's going to work for, where you are. And a lot of places that's more libertarian oriented in some ways because, for example, in Kurdistan, there's not a history of like a Kurdish state, for example, or any necessary good representation in government. I think Iraq is the only state to recognize Kurdish as or I think it's Kurdish as an official language, for example, and it's oppressed everywhere else. So a lot of it, I find, is just kind of opening your ears and listening to other folks. Sometimes people are full of shit, but sometimes you can learn a lot too.
Yeah, that's part of the mass line. Like, if you study the mass line, and I think this shows Mao's anarchist influence. Like the guy was an anarchist until he realized that it wouldn't work in a country as huge as China. But anyways, like he was like, look, we have to we can't just come and dictate to the people. We can't just be another group of warlords. That's not going to work. They're not going to allow it. So baked into the mass line, which is the Maoist method of organizing, is the idea that we have to listen to the people. We have to listen to people that we disagree with. This doesn't mean that we have to make the ideas of the people that we disagree with or the people who are objectively wrong. For example, if I go to a meeting with the Nation of Islam brother, I'm not going to adopt his positions on Jewish people. I'm not going to adopt his reactionary positions on women. But in terms of struggling against the police, and the Nation of Islam is actually remarkably conservative. But
Yes.
yeah, but in terms of like struggle against the police, like there's no reason to break up a coalition because of an entirely unrelated issue unless it poses an actual threat. For example, we're not going to work with transphobes under any circumstances. We're not going to work with Klansmen or any of these types of people just because they draw a check too, because the primary contradiction is the fact that they want to swing people that look like me from trees, or they want to
Yeah.
oppress our trans brothers and sisters. So it's some things are red lines, but in the process of coalition work, we're going to work with churches. We're going to work with people who are like generally socially conservative normies, and like we should get used to that. But we should also work to educate them and move them away from those reactionary sentiments. Because if we just look for communists to organize, we're going to be doing the same shit that we've been doing for the past 100 years. It's just going to be us. It's going to be me, you, Milo, hand everybody else that came on this thing. Okay, and we're the Communist Party, and then we'll look at us 50 years later. We're all old and decrepit, and revolution still ain't game. We can't allow that to happen. Milo, you've been quiet.
It's a good conversation. I'm just enjoying it. Yeah.
All right, so you are with
Yeah.
the International Association of Machinists. I hope I got that
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I am International Association of Machinists.
I know some comrades out in Wichita who they work for the Cessna plant or something out there. But,
Spirit would be the Boeing
Spirit.
Boeing subsidiary in Wichita. Used to
Okay.
be in the IAM until it got sold off. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, but they're pretty involved out there. But it's good to see you, man. So
Right on. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I
So-
don't know how long Dominic's wanting to stick around, but I definitely want to say thank you for getting that case of Monster Energy drinks out to the picket lines in the early hours of the strike. He's been helping out.
I have been. I'll say there have been comrades a little bit more, been able to help a little bit more than me. But yeah, getting the
That's
energy
alright.
drinks out or get at 1 a.m.
Doing
Dominic-
more than most.
Yeah.
Dominic is my hostage. He will stay as long as I require his presence.
All right, I can chill. I mean, I got a few hours to our GMM, so
Jesus Christ. But yeah, I guess the three of us can make a decent little team. So
Yes.
Milo,
Yeah.
what do you think? What do you think is the role of like the labor movement in around like disaster relief and like in the left in general? Because like a lot of people have one or two positions on unions. Some people
Yeah.
think that unions are hopelessly bought off, which is of course wrong. And some people think that unions have the philosopher's stone and we should follow everything that they order us to do, which is also wrong. So you have right syndicalism or you have ultra left abstentionism. Both of these are obviously wrong. So
Yeah.
you, as a comrade who is involved in labor work, like,
Yeah.
what is your take on this?
All right, so I'm going to draw on my philosophy background and say we need to understand those things dialectically. I think that understanding that there is issues in the present labor movement, as it exists under capitalism, there is corruption. There are people who are trying to get positions in the labor aristocracy and get off the shop floor into the union hall to get out of doing a real job. But then there's also the fact that unions are one of the few democratic organizations that the proletariat has to express their will in the world more broadly. So I think that there's a sort of interplay between those two things, and the understanding comes from how they relate to each other. So how the democratic institution relates to the power that exists, the power structures. So yeah, there's a lot of different perspectives on unions, but I think that we have a really important role to play in the left, in revolution, and in changing of the way things are, because we always have. It's always been. I shouldn't say always, but labor has been a huge part of increasing the power of people as opposed to institutions. So yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that
Yeah,
answered your
really.
question, but
You did. You did perfectly. I didn't know you had a philosophy background. There's
I
a
mean, not I read. I don't study, but I read.
yeah, because I was about to say, like, there's a pretty solid trend of like Zoomers and millennials that get like liberal arts degrees, and then they can't find a job in their field, so they end up joining a union.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, there's I
the
work with
prolet-
an art history major who went through school and is working as a person right now, and
the
That was
we had
half
we
my
have a good
proletarian
EMT
conversation.
class.
the proletarianization of the intellectuals.
Yeah, half
Yeah,
my
my
Yeah,
EMT class was guys who got bachelors and like couldn't
yeah,
yeah.
find a
I mean,
job.
that was almost me, but then I decided I would make a horrible EMT. So actually, I think I might make a decent EMT. Like I
There's
don't get
there's big crossover in skill sets actually, especially like the de-escalation part and like
mm,
mental health support. Like that's half your job as an EMT is being a therapist.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I don't get flustered by a lot of shit. My coworkers were initially scared of me. Like they thought I was some type of psychopath. They're like, Chris, this person is literally having an overdose in front of you. What is wrong? I'm like, I gave him Narcan. What was I supposed to do? Like when somebody's going through a crisis situation, standing around them screaming and hollering is not going to help. So I'm pretty unflappable. I guess that's why I'm still in DSA. Wink.
Takes some
But
resilience to
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm a black
How-
Maoist in DSA. Of course, it takes a lot of resilience. I think, honestly, I think the fact that like I went through the conditioning and testing that the Red Guards offered. Well, no, I was never a Red Guard, but like being their enemy number one, I think that made me like it tempered me a lot of like, you know what, I really don't give a shit. Like I literally had a 40-page rant written about me. Like there's really nothing you can say about or to me that can make me change my mind or
Yeah.
punk out. But I guess to every cloud is a silver lining.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with you when you say that like we have to orient correctly towards labor. What's an EMT? An emergency medical technician. Basically, when you call an ambulance, those are the guys that make sure you're not on the brink of death. And if you're on the brink of death, they bring you back from the brink of death. That's an EMT. Some people call them paramedics, but I think there's a difference between
Difference in
paramedic and EMT.
licensure and scope of practice. EMTs
Okay.
are like more BLS oriented and like trauma, while paramedics are like, we'll push a bunch of medications and use that big ass box to resuscitate you and like put a tube down your throat.
Yeah. I've gotten to know quite a few EMTs and paramedics and working in shelters. You guys have a unique sense of humor.
Oh, it's dark. It's so
Yeah.
fucking dark.
Yeah, I made a joke with one of them. Once. It was like, "Are you sure you're not one of us? Like, you've seen some shit, bro." I'm like, "No, I'm just an asshole." But yeah, we have to orient towards labor because and a lot of rightists inside and outside of DSA, like they think that we should subordinate ourselves to labor bureaucrats. Like, no, I'm not taking marching orders from SOB of the Teamsters. But but at the same time, like we also have to realize that college students cannot make the revolution. Like because organized labor in general, like it's situated to the point where by withholding labor, it can bring this country to a standstill.
Yeah.
That's why it's important. And I'm not saying that student struggle is an adjunct to that, but it's a radically different milieu. And of course, many students, like I mentioned earlier, many students end up going to go become workers anyways.
There's been a lot of crossover, especially locally, between the student organizing and labor because like all the adjuncts and grad students are in UAW around here.
Yeah. Yeah, yesterday, my alma mater actually, St. Louis University. There were a lot of grad students. They filed for their union election. They had spent a year collecting cards, and now they're about to hold their election. So it's pretty dope. I think Milo is froze.
Infinite Worm. I don't know if I'm allowed to respond to folks, but I do know that AFT actually passed a strike pledge, and there's a bit of an anti-Zionist movement in them in the National Education Association as well.
Yeah, that's true. But a lot of I imagine they would retort by saying that like AFT isn't an industrial union. No. Like a lot of
teachers are fucking workers at this point. Oh,
yeah, Milo's internet dropped. He'll be back. I hope he'll be back.
Yeah. Now, NEA had a big fight at their convention over BDS, and it was interesting because their staff strike very intentionally happened at the same time as the convention. Just tactically, it's a good place to have a staff strike. You can't really run the convention without the staff. But the town education association president was like, "Yeah, we just spent our time at the local Palestine lines," which I thought was great.
Mm-hmm.
She's a good comrade in
what's
in
the
local
most
chapter.
what's the most inhumane form of torture? Being black in an all-white college ultra-left group. As somebody who has been black, as somebody who has been black in an all-white college ultra-left group, I can definitely attest to that sentiment. They either use you as a token, or they put you out as the front, or they ignore you completely. It's annoying.
I have found myself in the local Revolutionary Student Union, kind of, which a lot of the only anarchists.
I thought the Maoists.
Yeah, because they all. That's like I'm kind of in them because they had good crossover with the student organization that I help lead, which is the Students for Housing Justice, and I'll just go in the term like, oh, you kids don't know anything about socialism.
What's up, Milo? Welcome back.
Yeah, sorry, my computer just crashed.
I thought the Ginger Hunters got you.
No,
it's Boeing targeting you.
Yeah, I know.
No,
stay away. Speaking up.
stay away from cars.
Yeah.
All right. So where were we? We're just responding to random stuff.
Just talking about the left and labor and sort of college students, and I think the important task that we have as the left that is an ongoing struggle is to kind of figure out what is the proletariat, and how do we make sure that the people who are doing the thing are the ones who are making decisions about how the thing gets done. And I don't think that any I don't think that any group of machinists could decide what would best be done on a college campus, or what's best to for students to be fighting for, but also like in the same way that I oppose state power and capital power. It's the people who are on the shop floor in the labor union who are able to make the best decisions about how things get done. So yeah.
No investigation, no right to speak, if you will. Like that's why, like, as somebody that, for example, I do not know how a welding shop works. I do not know how I do not know what being a janitor is like. Well, I do have to clean the shelter, but like I do not know what having to clean up a whole ass fucking hospital looks like. So it would be presumptuous of me to try to tell welders how to organize themselves. So try to tell my brothers and sisters over in SEIU that work at Barnes how to do their work or how to organize themselves, because like I think a lot of left-wing intellectuals have that problem. Like you guys have never pulled a bag of leaky fucking trash because some asshole kept throwing full cups of coffee in there. Like you guys have never had to pull a fucking bag of leaky trash and take it out to the dumpster. But you think you know how the working class shit organized. Like, where does that happen at?
Yeah.
And if anything, one of the reasons why I really, really love the Cultural Revolution is because, as my ancestors said after slavery, and the bottom rail is now on top. So you had workers, you had peasants going to college for the very first time. You had workers that were literally giving instructions to Communist Party cadres. One of the major reasons why the Soviet Union collapsed was because there was this useless layer of fat nomenclature, like people who literally did nothing but they lived off the wages of the people. Like that's bureaucratism
It
and the
just
experience of the
ends up being a new bourgeois.
Yeah.
It's all about making sure that we correctly identify the proletariat and put them in charge of the decisions that concern them. So yeah, definitely.
Like I have no business in sitting in a fucking union hall with you two, or sitting in a fucking I guess after we take power, sitting in a beautiful office building and drinking fucking Glenfiddich while people starve to death in the streets.
Yeah, but there's a tremendous amount of solidarity that's been going on. A lot of people from other unions getting involved in our struggle for better pay, getting a pension back, and there's part of the other thing that we recognize as a left is the interconnectedness of everybody. It's impossible to separate entirely one person's interest from another. So really trying to make sure that those decisions end up happening democratically and involve the people who really are concerned with it. So yeah.
So Marlo, I hope it's okay, Chris, if I ask a question.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Sure. I've seen a few families on the picket line. How's it been going with them? Because
we're into the 5th week of the strike, 6th week of the strike now. So people have missed out on 3 paychecks now, which in a world where many people are living paycheck to paycheck, that's a really significant hit. I'm doing what I can to try and organize a mutual aid group and make sure that food's available at the halls, and make sure that people are aware that food is available at the halls. And yeah, it's a struggle. I mean, it's always a struggle, but I think that's the thing about striking is that we're showing the company that we're willing to lose out on what we have for something better in the future. And I really hope that the families on the line are doing well or in good shape, are at least keeping their head above water. But yeah, it's a struggle, and we recognize that every working person has a struggle that they're going through, and we're just trying to do something about it. So yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Dom.
I was like, Milo, let's talk later. I think we can do some coordination.
Oh, hell yeah. No, definitely. I'm super down.
Yeah, especially around childcare, I think we can do some stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to cap this at 4 hours, but y'all can ramble all you want. bring fucking Gumbo back on so they can do their fucking Boomhauer impression.
I'll do the plug real quick, guys. Make sure to donate. I think I was screaming it in the chat earlier. I donated my $20.
Thank you, co-host.
Sorry about this.
You're good. You'd actually make a pretty good one, I think.
I'd have fun with it. I know how to not shut up. So
yeah. So what else do we have? So is there anything that the IAM is involved in like nationwide right now? That shows how much I know about unions.
We have a few ongoing efforts trying to organize the baggage handlers at the Delta baggage handlers. Um, I'm not super involved with I Am National or any of those campaigns, but try to be aware of what we're working on. But we've got a lot of local a lot of stuff going on in local 751. So and we mostly represent the or local 751 represents Boeing in Washington and Portland. So we're kind of a small focus, but definitely a really big portion of the economy up here. So
Okay. And I think there was a conversation I had with some comrades in my local DSA branch's labor committee. What do you think about like targeting strategic industries? Like a lot of people aren't really all that strategic. Like just join the first union that they see or that does the stuff they like to do. So, do you think that there should be a concerted effort by leftists to salt? I guess you could say like strategic industries, for example, um, longshoremen, um, logistics stuff. Really, like America would be nothing without our logistics network. Like
yeah,
all the food at the grocery store, it comes by truck or it comes by train.
yeah,
Um, and airports as well. Like
yeah. I
that's what I would
think
target.
yeah, I think that's definitely a valid strategy. I think that it shouldn't happen at the expense of other uh, campaigns that have energy behind them. I think that the Starbucks workers, for example, are hugely important in the labor movement right now. Having service workers seeing that you can unionize, you can fight together and win, and you can be militant, and you can have ideas and change things about the way your workplace works,
Yeah,
and it's something that people interface with on a daily basis.
yeah.
um, so targeting strategic industries is really important, but also like labor when one labor union wins, when people see that unions work, when people see the power that workers have, it has a ripple effect across all industries. Um,
Teamsters, elevator repairmen.
hell yeah,
Yeah, let's unionize the elevator repairmen. Why not? If they don't
Teamsters
do
will
it,
organize. Teamsters will organize anybody because they're old. Like no one's a Teamster like as a profession anymore.
yeah.
yeah, we'll
I,
take his. Of course, we'll organize this and take his money. Yeah.
But
Jimmy Hoffa's rolling in the Jimmy Hoffa's ashes are rolling at the bottom of Lake Michigan right now.
he's better than his kid was. His kid was a
Yeah,
son of a bitch for stopping the Reform Caucus.
yeah, because he
Or-
was he was a fucking nepo baby. What do you expect?
oh God,
Yeah, but I'm kind of
I
split on Hoffa.
yeah.
Like Hoffa was basically Martin Luther King for working class white people. Like,
A little bit more
and
crooked than MLK, but yeah,
yeah,
in some ways.
but I mean but still yeah, like still he took care. He did what he was supposed to do. He took care of his people. But also, yeah, he probably shouldn't have lent the whole fucking pension fund to the mob and then tried to call in a debt and got himself killed. But I mean, yeah, I think he was a Nixon supporter because he hated the Kennedys. But from what I've read, he seemed to be a pretty decent supporter of civil rights stuff. So
That's some Boston Irish shit right there.
yeah. Yeah, because the reason that Hoffa had beef with the Kennedys was because no, the reason that the mob had beef with the Kennedys, well, the mob and Hoffa, was because their dad had told them that if you deliver us Illinois and these other states that we need, because it was like razor thin in 1960, if you deliver us these states, mobilize your people, break whoever's legs you have to break, whatever, then we will not investigate you guys. So what happens? JFK gets elected. RFK is his attorney general because why not? And one of the first things that RFK does is investigate the mob and investigate the Teamsters. So yeah, that's why they hated him because they were fucked. He fucked them over. Like this, you can't do that when you have friends like that. That's what maybe you shouldn't make friends with the mob in the first place. But I digress.
They got their hands into a lot of New England unions. Like the laborers union for the longest time in Providence was completely run by the mob.
Oh yeah, pretty much every union in New England and the Mid Atlantic was run by the mob.
Yeah, it's impressive to an extent. Just to the
Dual
labor
power.
point. Yeah, it in some ways, yes.
Come on, let's start the DSA. Let's start the DSA mob.
I have made the joke about being the head of the Red Army for the DSA. That was a joke going around the chapter for a while.
Okay, Trotsky.
God no.
Yeah.
We already have too many. I love my Trotskyists, but there's too many. We already have too many in DSA.
But there's no Irish Trotsky. You're Irish Trotsky.
Can I be Italian and Trotsky instead? I'm both.
Yeah, your last name is Dreskel.
Yeah, the other one's Palumbo though, so there's that. I guess.
The guy
That's
that got shot.
No, the Palumbo I'm related to threw a mobster at his window and got away with it, or his storefront window and got away with it.
Ooh.
There's a fun story behind that of it's the Depression and the pharmacist is giving away free meds to people and you don't try to go shake him down for money because the mob still has to like hide in the community at this point.
Yeah.
But you were asking about ILW or organizing, especially around transportation, and I will say there are some very strong transport unions, especially around the sea trades, like International Longshoremen Workers Union and Warehouse Workers Union, excuse me. Out here on the West Coast is very militant. Like I don't think they still are one of those unions that doesn't do no strike, no lockout clauses. They have underhand deals with or under the table deals with all the shippers about it, but they'll go on strike at random, and that's the only reason that Israeli ships don't get unloaded is because when the ILWU doesn't want to work. But when they stop, the ships get unloaded because a bunch of guys in kayaks can't stop a freighter. Quite frankly, it's much bigger than them.
Those things will run you the fuck over and kill you on accident.
Yes.
Or you can get sucked into the wake and be I don't fuck around with ships. But anyways, that's right. That strike a couple weeks ago. Well, no, last month. Like they had a clause in that where like, okay, we're still going to do military cargo. And like a lot of people were like, because communists have not done the proper agitation work, like unions and working class people cannot read our minds. Okay, like the average American, yeah, they'll probably look at they watch the news every night. Okay, after they come home from work, or they scroll through shit on their phone, and they'll be like, "Yeah, Jesus Christ, this is fucking horrible. That's fucked up. I feel so sorry for these people." But the average American
don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. Like Americans are not like I do not think that the majority of our countrymen are inherently evil people. I think that they are majority ignorant people. Like they literally do not know what's going on.
I mean, that's what happens when capital owns social media and news, and it just is people get fed the narratives that enforce the power structures in our society. So
yeah, I mean, shit. Like the thing is, like when Americans, like when we get it in our minds that something is fucked up or something is evil, then we will work to stop that shit. But we have
to do it on our own and not collectively organize about it.
Yeah, like
get burnt out and not end up doing anything.
Like I call America a nation of bandits for a reason. Like that's literally what we are.
Yeah.
Like we don't like. That's why I keep saying that, like the type of system that existed in the Soviet Union or China, a country that was governed by a Tsar and an emperor, respectively. Like it
Yeah.
wouldn't that stuff wouldn't fly here. Like Americans wouldn't tolerate it. We already hate being told to pay taxes.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I mean, it's a good starting point. You know, you just have to get people to realize the oppression and subversion that comes with capitalism. That
Yeah.
you know it's as bad, if not worse, than what happens happens through the state. So
Does
yeah.
does anybody have I guess we could wrap up with this. Does anybody have thoughts on Jay Sakai and third worldism? Everybody knows what my thoughts on Jay Sakai are. I think third worldism is stupid hipster shit, though.
Has third worldism been relevant since the 70s or 80s? Like I legitimately like don't know anymore.
Outside of college campuses, no. I will say that Sakai is basically the working man's Lenin. Well, no, the working man's Marx. But yeah, third worldism as an ideology, I don't have much time for it. It's basically like okay, there's no hope for revolution in the United States. Everybody here is hopelessly bought off. So let's just sit on our asses and be sanctimonious for the rest of our lives until we all die. Like it's just like no, that's why I call it stupid hipster bullshit. Like one of the key things about being a communist is that we believe that we can change the world. Third worldism believes that we cannot change the world, and it's also lazy chauvinism because it basically puts the onus on the third world to come and save us all. So no, I don't really fuck with third worldism.
It's kind of the inverse of Trotsky's theory of infinite revolution, isn't it?
Permanent revolution.
Or permanent revolution, yes.
Yeah, basically like the idea that the revolution has to start in industrialized capitalist countries and then it's going to be spread to the third world. Yeah, and now third worldists believe that the revolution is going to happen in the third world, that it's going to be brought to the United States, and we're going to all be under a joint dictatorship of oppressed nations. I do think that the JD pawn is a pretty useful concept, but I just like the people who uphold that theory or who promote it. It's just do nothingism. Probably the smartest thing that Kassan has said all night. Yeah, third worldism is do nothingism. That's a lot better than whining about deporting the unwashed settlers back to Europe. But I mean, it's a meme. Like, oh yeah, back to Europe, but like in certain reactionaries take it seriously. Like, no, we're not going to be able to deport 250 million people back to Europe. Like, there's not enough room in Europe for all those people. As a way, that's part of why so many people left Europe in the first place. Like, no, I'm just going to leave a potato farm. I'm going to go over to the Americas and I'm going to, I don't know, drink whiskey until I die. No. People left because Europe was a shitty place to live.
And then a bunch of them became even more racist.
Yeah.
Well, the Irish did at least.
Yeah, America ruined the Irish.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of the interesting critiques you see in the Irish civil rights movement of Irish Americans. It's like they're supporting us, but they're not supporting the local civil rights movement that we took inspiration from.
Yeah. Bernadette Devlin said, like,
yeah,
somebody gave her, I think John Lindsay gave her the key to the city of New York, and she was like, I don't want shit to do with you people. You people are, first of all, do you think that the Irish in Ireland love cops? And then second of all, like, why are you guys so, like, we were literally seen as being the blacks of the British Empire. Why do you hate the blacks so much? And then third of all, like, why do you keep saying, you know what, we're going to keep taking your money, but we're going to go hang out with the Black Panthers. Those are people that we could get along with. You guys are useless. But like, yeah, the IRA would send people over here. Well, Sinn Féin would send people over here for fundraising tours, and they would like just be like, "Oh yeah, we took the stupid bastards' money, but we didn't hang out with them."
No, yeah, the IRA was going to Northern Africa to get training. So
yeah,
yeah,
they gave money to the they also helped train the Mkoto Wesizwe, the armed wing of the African National Congress, to help blow up a power plant in South Africa. So yeah, very close to Gaddafi, very close to Nelson Mandela. Took a lot of inspiration from African liberation struggles. But you come here and you have your Irish that are cops or think like cops. So Irish business aside, On the topic of the Jesus Christ, you all wait till we're about to end the stream to ask me all these wide ass questions. On the topic of the U.S., how would you implement land back post revolution? I'll probably be dead post revolution. Would it differ in places with large native populations? Like the Midwest has a large, you're referring to the plains. The Midwest does not have a large native population. The Southwest and the Great Plains have the majority of indigenous people in the United States. The Dakotas, Arizona, New Mexico, that's where most of our indigenous people live. Oklahoma is not the Midwest. And low native populations like the Northeast. That's something for the indigenous people to decide. Like, I try not to get too caught up in like fucking futuristic fan fiction because we don't know. There's never been a revolution in a settler colonial country like the United States. So it's best not to get bogged down and stuff like that. It's best to work on getting there. Then we can plan.
Well, speaking of working on getting there, we've got a tentative agreement we're voting on tomorrow, and I got to vote, trying to organize a vote no picket outside of our voting locations. So I'm going to take off, but
Yep.
it's been really good talking to you guys.
All right.
Yeah.
So just wrapping up. Do not forget to donate. Dominic has lovingly been screaming at people in the chat to donate because he is a very, very good hype man. And of course, you can go on my Twitter, and that is going to be stuck for a little bit. My Twitch has a fundraiser for mutual aid disaster relief. You can also donate to mutual aid disaster relief. Either way, the money is going to fucking get there. You have the Western North Carolina Mutual Aid Fund, and you have the Florida Mutual Aid Fund. So, hope you enjoyed this. I know I did. So, all power to the people. Dominic, Milo.
Yeah, all power to all the people.
All power to me. Goodbye.
All right, how do? Okay, that went well. How do I leave? There we are. Let me leave.